Okay, I'm live again. Let's do this. See if I'm all set up here. Yeah, I think I'm good. Hello, everybody. Hope you all had a good Christmas or whatever you're celebrating. I'm going to go ahead and get started. Going to play some more Witcher 3 today because it's such a fun game. At least I think so. I don't know. Some people disagree with that. Razor Fist. All right, yeah, I'm screen sharing. Cool. For the record, I did play a bit offline. This is not really meant to be a comprehensive playthrough of, the entirety of the game. I have played this game before. This is more of just a casual live stream where I'm going to try to hit as many of the big story beats as possible of the main story, but you're not going to see me do a bunch of like side stuff. I might just do some of that stuff offline. Very casual, as I've always been. Hotterdon. I do like this armor set that they give you. I think this is this was a free armor set that they gave all players for some reason. Or maybe it came with the complete edition. I don't really remember, but it's like a Japanese Ronin type of vibe.
Medallion's humming. Place of power. It's gotta be.
Kind of neat. Hello.
Solved your problem. Just in case, though, avoid the Whispering Hillock for a while.
Cannot be. There's something lurking there.
Yeah, fucking talking tree that tried to kill me.
An evil spirit had possessed a tree on the hill. It was responsible for the killings.
How'd ye dispel this evil?
How'd ye? I destroyed the tree.
To possess the tree's heart.
Cut it right down.
Destroyed the heart and its inhabitant.
Isengard style.
Will it be back?
No. The crones, or the ladies of the wood as you call them, said to remind you about payment. Take it you know what they want?
Aye, I do. Give me the dagger. Be back soon.
Crones are so fucking creepy. They're creepier than the Wild Hunt, to be honest. I almost feel like they should have been the main villains. Oh, hello, Stephen. This is the same play file. On the offline stream that I was doing, I was more so banging out a lot of just exploration and side stuff. And whenever I go live on YouTube, I'm going to try to bang out more of like the main story stuff.
Our young'uns and their young'uns after him. No gods nor masters watch over Velen. The land is no man's. He who wants to survive must seek his own protectors.
Ugh. You ever just collect some ears? Is that ever like a casual activity of yours? Oh my god, they are so disgusting. Fucking god, the designs are so cool though.
Sheathe your weapon, young man.
In real life, you're different than you were in the tapestry.
Unrealistic beauty expectations.
Bring it here.
But yeah, this is the same save file, Steven. Oh, I just dropped something, sorry. I'm so clumsy.
Never seek to cross us again.
We shall forgive you this transgression, for you've done well. Your children are plump as piglets.
Ugh,
Sweet as
God.
caramel.
So one thing that sucks about this
Now
quest.
talk to our white-haired friend.
I know that, Mark. This is Anna, the wife of the Baron of Crow's Perch.
She belongs to no man.
A fruit ripened in her womb. A fruit
Oh, you said it. Yeah, I would never want to live in this kind of world.
We helped her. She agreed to serve. She bears the mark. She's ours.
Because yeah, I see those questions come up on social media sometimes.
Come. It is another woman who interests you. Speak, white-haired one.
Like some people will pose that question on social media sometimes. They'll be like, what fantasy or sci-fi world would you want to transport yourself to if you had the opportunity? And, you know, people will give all kinds of different answers. They'll be like, oh, you know, Middle Earth from The Lord of the Rings, or, I don't know, the Star Wars galaxy. But, like, who in their right mind would ever pick this world? Or, like, the world of Game of Thrones? It's like, fuck that. I would never want to transport to that world. I mean, look, as, you know, purely a video gamer, like playing a fictional video game, I very much enjoy the Witcher world from the outside looking in, but holy shit, I would never want to enter the Witcher world or the Game of Thrones world. Those kind of like bleak, dark fantasy worlds. No, thank you. I wouldn't last a day.
You used me to tame the Whispering Hillock. A lot of work.
It would be my ear on that slab.
Did you destroy the evil powers? Have you brought peace to our domain?
Yes.
So fortunate to have found so brave a knight, so able.
I mean, listen, I got to hand it to these three crones. They might be disgusting and evil as shit, but they are really pulling out the Riz on Geralt.
What did you need the children for?
We? They needed us. Our care.
Where are they?
They are far away.
Their troubles are over.
I don't know if it's a bale of hay. I can't tell. I thought it was like more of a basket that's like covering up what her actual face is. Which, if that's the case, like, oh god, I can't even imagine what she looks like underneath.
You looked different in the tapestry.
We're all dressed up just for you.
It could be a hay bale, though. Like I said, I can't really tell from looking at it.
If you only knew how much time we spent in front of the glass.
But assuming her face is a hay bale, I have no idea why that would be the case.
I'm impressed. Polymorphism, a rare talent.
Oh, I'd suck every last drop out of you.
Oh my. Well, how are you going to do that if your face is... never mind.
Together with you, I'd be your best and last.
Listen, this is their fashion. This is, you know, this is...
Not what I came for.
Who am I to judge? Who am I to judge a dunce cap or
I did my part. Now
a
you
hay
do
bale?
yours.
A word once given, we never break.
She looks
The girl.
normal.
Mousy blind. That's what they call it.
Thin as a rail, terrified, exhausted. She could barely stand, the poor thing.
We cared for her as best we could.
I mean, she might be the most normal one with the red veil, but she's also carrying out. She's got like arms and legs in a bag, so I don't know.
Mischievous, stubborn, and selfish.
Yeah, their designs really are like so cool, though. Like, even though I can't, like you just said, I can't really make heads or tails of them, but they are very interesting looking, and they really cooked in terms of coming up with these designs. These characters are not from the books, to the best of my remembrance. They're entirely a Witcher 3 creation.
Why'd she attack you?
She's no longer the girl you once knew. Wrath consumes her.
Hey, don't talk about Ciri. Don't talk about my Ciri.
Don't believe you. They say you always keep your word. So tell me everything, exactly as it happened.
We shall tell you, brave boy.
Stephen, you can hop in if you want, by the way. If you're not comfortable with that, that's cool. But if you have any interest in hopping in, you're welcome to. It's up to you, though. Just let me know, and I can send you the link.
Her likeness, a mirage in a puddle. She came from the lower swamp.
We knew not at first it was her the omens had spoken of.
A child of the elder blood, the same seed that would burst into flame.
Okay, just give me a minute.
She fell into our hands. Elder blood.
The blood of the traitress.
Will do.
Does she sleep?
Like a lamb.
Come, sisters, no point in dawdling. The table's set. The cauldron bubbles.
We cannot. You know she is meant for him.
Just want to wait for this cutscene to end.
If we get her, he will, but not whole.
Well said. We'll just have a sample.
I'll take her feet. Lovely. And plump. Perfect for a broth.
Oh, I can taste it already. Very well. Get on with it.
Oh, you'll regret that, girl. Regret it dearly.
Apologies. Going to screen share again. Hello.
Hello. Just have to. Hello, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay, great. Yeah, so are those three witches like are they supposed to represent something cuz in like Greek mythology, the three fates are supposed to represent the beginning, middle, and end of life. Like that's why it's like a young girl, a middle-aged woman, and then like an old crone. Like are these three supposed to represent something? Like the like haggard one, the veiled one, and then the whatever that third one is.
Yeah, honestly, I don't know the like the mythological or historical background for it. But considering a lot of this is rooted in Polish folklore, I wouldn't be surprised if there was something that they were drawing from here. But yeah, it's possible. Honestly, the three fates, that is something that kind of crossed my mind as well. So that is entirely possible, actually. But I
Yeah.
don't know. I couldn't say for sure. I don't want to like give you the wrong answer because I honestly don't know.
Yeah, because
I'm sure they're inspired by something though.
Yeah, anytime there's like which is it's like a very common thing to have like three witches or three like spirit kind of creatures appear, because you think of like Macbeth and the three witches there, which are supposed to actually be tied into more like British and Arthurian legend, which is kind of weird for a Scottish play, but that's what that's what they're supposed to represent. So
yeah, it's got to be something though. I would be interested to find that out. Honestly, it could be a mixture of multiple things, like multiple different inspirations, because like they look like very folklorish characters, you know.
You tried to kill her, tried to butcher her like an animal and eat her.
Blood. The taste brought back the memories of our youth.
Elder blood. Extraordinary girl. But you knew that.
Such a shame she fled.
Yeah, why would she possibly have ran from you?
yeah, you're. Oh my God, her eye. Yeah. Oh.
They are all very attractive. Okay, they're very.
Our fates abound.
And one will die, but it shan't be one of us.
Now you shall chase shadows and wander midst fog.
Each time you see her, she will be a mirage.
And if you find her, if the girl will die,
I'll see you, handsome knight.
Did they give a reason in game why he doesn't just kill them?
Like right then and there. I don't know. That's a good question, actually. You would think, yeah, given that they literally just admitted that they like tried to kill Ciri, that would have been enough for him to want to just kill them right then and there. I don't know.
Plus, obviously they're not human. I mean, it's fairly obvious.
No.
So you think?
Well, yeah, and that's the thing. I don't know. And that's maybe why he kind of held back, because like, well, his main priority is finding Ciri, so he's not, and he doesn't know like exactly what kind of power they're capable of, so he's not just gonna like come right at them.
I'm kind of starting to wonder if in Witcher 4, if they're gonna do like because I would imagine like in making it and making Ciri the main character that they're kind of they would have accounted for like the backlash. So I'm wondering if like we just haven't seen it yet, but if there's going to be like a Geralt side mission in the game, like just something where like maybe like he's like you said, he got his ending, he got essentially his retirement, but just like do like a side mission where he helps her with like one thing, and then and that's more or less to like appease the players. Is like, oh look, you still got a bit of him, like.
Oh, I'm absolutely certain that he's going to like have, if not side quest significance, then main story significance. Like even though it's not like his story anymore, he will play some sort of role, in The Witcher 4, some sort of important role. I guarantee. Yennefer, I'm not really sure about. That could go either way. She might only make like a cameo, but
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that's what I mean. Like, I don't even think that he's gonna play like a major role in the game. I think it's gonna be like a side quest where it's like he helps her with, some like like a key part of the story, but it's like that's about it. It's just like maybe something that he knows from his past or something. And it's like she has to go to him because he's the only one who has like the knowledge. So he like shows her where something is, or just something along those lines is what I think they'll do to try and appease the players. Because right now, that's also what kind of drives me crazy about the conversation surrounding it. Is like we've gotten one trailer. That's it. That's all we know is this one trailer. There, like the game could be so much more than what we've seen, and people are losing their minds over like just a teaser trailer for like what basically amounts to a teaser trailer.
Yeah, it could be both. Honestly, I think he could have like a side story and like it. What I think might happen is that whatever the antagonist of the new game ends up being, or whatever the end goal ends up being for Ciri, she might require like allies to help her at like the end of whatever her quest is. And obviously one of those people that she would naturally go to would be Geralt. So it could be something like that. But then he also could have like a side quest. So I don't know. Either way, they have confirmed he's going to be in it. So
yeah, but that's like I said, that just makes the current discourse all the more frustrating because it's like you don't know, you're getting mad over a trailer and like you don't really know what it's going to be.
Well, it doesn't stop him from getting angry, I guess.
Well, no, and it's like when the first trailer and like info for like Star Wars Outlaws came out, it works the other way because we had no idea how bad that game was going to end up being. So it's like it can go either way. You don't know. It's at least wait till there's like a full till they do like a full like presentation of the game where they show gameplay, where they show things like that. Like wait for that before like making judgments.
Yeah. Well, and it's like I said, like a lot of the ridiculous backlash it stems from a number of things, but it's also like if they had made this announcement and if they had dropped that trailer 5 years earlier, no one would have batted an eye. Yeah. But because all the culture war stuff has kind of ramped up more and more over the past few years, and because there have been other game announcements surrounding it that happen to have a female protagonist, these people, I guess, have the inclination to just kind of roll their eyes and be like, oh, another one. But it's like, oh shit! I got bucked off my horse. That's very rude. You fucking. And then she threw mud at me.
I'm just trying to picture Henry Cavill in that kind of a thing where he like falls off his horse and gets mud thrown at him. Just on the show. It would just take away so much from like his imposing, nature.
Yeah, the gravitas. Oh, by the way, it's funny you mention it because I could have sworn I thought that one of the things that they gave access to in the complete edition of this game was a Henry Cavill skin. Like there's a Henry Cavill version of Geralt that you can play as. Where do I find that again? I gotta locate this. Like I said, my control scheme is off, so I can't even find the main menu.
Do you have to pay for the skin, or is it just included?
No, it was included. I never used it because I never had any interest, but I'm pretty sure that's an option. I gotta find it.
Huh. See, that's what I like. I like stuff like that. Like when she was playing Star Wars Bounty Hunter, and it's like, well, once you beat the game, you can play as Boba Fett. It's like that is great without the game feeling the need to go, oh, for this much money, you can unlock Boba Fett. And it's like, it just drives me crazy.
Oh, yeah. Like CD Projekt Red, I mean, they're not a perfect company, but they've been largely pretty generous when it comes to not only the reasonable prices of like their DLC expansions, but also just like a lot of the free little goodies that they give you. Like they give you a lot of them. Including that, like they give you alternate skins,
and at least games like Marvel Rivals, it's like, yeah, you can pay for the skins, but you can also grind to get them. Like, yeah. So your only option isn't to just pay for them. You do have the other option, and I don't mind that. Like I'm even okay with one thing that some games do is you can pay for a skin early to be able to be one of the first people to have it. But if you're willing to wait, you can just get it. And I think that's pretty fair. I think that, allows for people who, want to have it right away. And, they can kind of, get first shot at it, but then eventually everybody can just get it. I think that's fair to do because, that way you're not paying for the skin per se. You're just paying to have it, early on.
Yeah.
But then you have games like the most recent, I would say, is probably Kill the Justice League, where you're paying for everything. It feels like I don't know how much you know about Star Trek, but there's a race in Star Trek called the Ferengi, and their culture is that they're like the ultimate capitalists. Like you pay to use a door, you pay to use an elevator, you pay to every single thing you're paying. Like that's their society. And that's what Kill the Justice League reminded me of. It's like, I'm surprised they don't charge me, for when the game is booting up. Go, okay, do you want to continue into the game for just $5.99? You can start playing the game you already paid for. And
yeah.
Just drives me crazy.
Yeah, you know what? I know it's the money grubbing is just ridiculous. It's so over the top sometimes,
and it's killing the industry. In that, a lot of those types of games are failing pretty hard because people don't want that. They don't want like the most recent Mortal Kombat had a big problem with that too, where it's like everything, every costume, everything is all money. It's all. You just have to keep paying and paying and paying, and people don't want that. They want to go to like a GameStop and they want to buy their game, go home, and they want to play it. It's like I've already spent money for the game. Why shouldn't that be enough? Like, you already got my money. You don't need to keep bleeding me dry just to go through it. So yeah, like that's the thing in here. I really respect that they just included the Henry Cavill for free as just part of the game, because that's what they used to do with games.
Yeah. Oh, so yeah, no, you're right though. Like games used to largely be like completed packages at launch. Um and we do get them sometimes still. Like it's always like the funny thing that I've noticed is that people have become so conditioned to expect like paid DLC for everything, that they're almost like bewildered when they get like a feature complete game at launch. Like I think Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor, neither of those games, to the best of my knowledge, really had much in the way of like paid cosmetics or
No.
like DLC or anything. Like they just kind of released the game as is, and
Yeah.
people were even questioning it. They're like, "Where's the DLC at?" It's like, well, no, this is the game.
Well, yeah, it's like, like for Cal's, outfit, the lightsaber, you don't pay for. It's not like, oh, do you want him to have a green lightsaber? You got to, $5.99. You can have a green lightsaber. You can have a double lightsaber. You can have no. It's all in the game. Like outfits, the ponchos, everything. It's just all there. You just get it because you already paid. Like you paid for it.
Yeah, exactly.
Trying to find out how to unlock the Cavill skin.
Oh yeah, it's driving me nuts. I know it's available, and I'm just trying to figure out. So apparently, because I just Googled it because it was not in my list of like downloaded. Oh, maybe it's this. I think it might be the beard and hairstyle set. Do I have this downloaded? Oh, I guess I do. Oh, so I guess you maybe have to do it at a barber, even though that doesn't make any sense since you're like literally changing your skin, not just your hair. But
Geralt goes into a barber and he's like, "Yeah, give me the Henry Cavill." They should just have that in the game. He's like, "Yeah, give me the Henry Cavill," and it's like, on the wall there's just a poster of Superman, and it's like, just really screw with people's immersion.
Yeah, make me like that, and give me plastic surgery so that I change my facial structure to look like him too.
And no mustache.
Oh God, fucking Superman CGI mustache, Jesus. Well, the next time I'm in a city, I gotta check that out because I don't think I ever actually even like tried it in any of my playthroughs. Well, granted, I think I've only done one playthrough of the complete edition, which is what added the Henry Cavill thing. But I gotta see it. I have to take a look at it. After I complete a couple like little side things, I'm gonna go do that. After I just kill these bandits that were minding their own business.
Yeah,
I'm killing men that are just trying to get by.
Yeah, that reminds me, because that's a thing in Skyrim as well, where it's like you can come across bandits, like they're criminals, but they're not out to bother you. And you can just mercilessly slaughter them. It's like, okay, what? Like they weren't hurting you.
Yeah. Oh, this guy's glitching. This guy's glitching through the.
Oh my God, was he burning? He was like burning.
Oh yeah, well, he was burning from my. Oh, there you go. Okay, he unglitched himself.
Oh my God!
Oh, now he's glitched again. This guy's having a bad day.
Well, yeah, he's like on fire. He like a guy just popped out of nowhere, lit him on fire, started slashing him, and he's like phasing into the floor. Yeah, I think all around he's having a pretty bad time.
Listen, I have no regrets. It's not my fault. He's a bandit, and
yeah, you're the one who killed them, and now you're robbing their corpses. They're the bandits, and you're robbing their corpses.
I'm sure they robbed somebody because they're bandits. Listen, I have no regrets about this. I might be a horrible person, but their fault. I blame them.
Yeah, I don't think Geralt has a lot of like moral issues with that, considering how I'm surprised he isn't doing it more, considering like you were saying the other day, how witchers are treated in the world, how he gets treated by society. Be like, nah, I'm gonna.
He's venting out his deep-seated anger for the prejudice that he constantly faces out onto these bandits that he comes across. Like, listen, it's all your fault. It's all your fault that they treat me like a freak. It was you, bandits. You did this.
So yeah, went to see Nosferatu today.
Oh, how was that?
Yeah. Oh, it was fantastic. It's great. Like it's basically like, do you know what the story, like it's a remake, like do you know like what it is, like the story of it?
Not really. I just know what he looks like, but I don't really know the main story.
It's literally Dracula with the names changed. Like it's
okay, like the Bram Stoker.
Yeah, it's the Dracula story, but like all the names are different. Like his name is Orlok in the movie, but like Nicholas Hoult, like that guy's headed for, like his career is finally going to be taking off with this, because the performances he's handing down, like Juror Number 2, like this movie, I'm sure he's gonna like kill it as Lex Luthor. Like he's one of the hardest working actors in Hollywood from my perspective, and it's just like it's good to see him finally taking off, because he's put in so many dues on so many movies for years leading up to this, but he's never been like an A-list celebrity. But I think that's going to change now. Well, because it's very hard for actors who are physically attractive, like that kind of physically attractive. Like if you're like Robert Downey Jr. or something, you have like rugged good looks, that's different. But if you have like, I don't know any other way to say this, the pretty boy good looks, you're not taken very seriously in Hollywood. Like that's a big problem. That's why Leonardo DiCaprio started taking on roles where he had like beards, where he had like the Revenant, where he's like all scraggly, and that is because he really had to try to get rid of that pretty boy like persona for like to be taken seriously. And that's when he finally got his Oscar win was when he did that. So like for Nicholas Hoult, it's no doubt been very hard for him to move past that, but he's finally doing it. And yeah, he just turns in an amazing performance. Just they're all great. I mean, everyone in the movie, like Lily Rose Depp, she's fantastic, and she's another one who gets that. I was talking to Sheev about this when we were talking about people like Jack Quaid and that, who are like considered the Nepo babies in Hollywood, where it's like they come from like a long line of actors and that. And so, they were able to ride that into the industry. But by the same token, you've got people like Emma Roberts, who just like takes advantage of it, like doesn't feel like who is just like happy to be like, yeah, I got in easy. Yeah. So, and then you have people like Jack Quaid and like Lily Rose Depp, who are like, yeah, I got in easy, but now I feel like I have to earn the right to be here. So they were like, they work really hard to be like, I don't just want to be that, I want to earn it myself. And yeah, she's just she plays the Mina Harker role from Dracula in it. And yeah, she's just fantastic. Like a very layered, very complex performance. It's amazing. Anyone who's thinking of it, like I really want this film to do well. It really deserves to. It's made by the guy who made The Lighthouse.
Oh yeah, and The Northman. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
Robert Eggers, The
Yeah.
Northman. I've seen all of his movies.
Yeah, and this easily stands up to those, like easily.
I know most people consider The Lighthouse to be his best film. And that was actually my least favorite out of the three. It was still a great movie, but it's my least favorite out of the three. But yeah, I mean, it seems like he's really going places. Honestly, his movies seem to generally get a lot of fanfare and be pretty well regarded.
Yeah, I was really impressed with The Northman. He made me enjoy the Hamlet story, and that's my least favorite Shakespeare play. So that's not an easy task to accomplish with me. Is like he made me like Hamlet, because that's what The Northman is. It's the original Hamlet story. It's where Shakespeare got the idea from.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah. What have you watched lately?
Good question. I haven't really been watching a lot. I can't even remember.
Have you checked out Skeleton Crew?
No. I had zero interest in that, which is a shame because I've heard that this one's actually kind of decent.
It's it has its ups and downs. What is it? Yeah, like when Jude Law's character finally, like, he doesn't really get anything to do until like the third episode, but that's when it really kind of does start to be like decent, and he's absolutely carrying that show, like, because the kids in it, they're likable, but they're not the cast of Stranger Things. They're not the cast of It Chapter 1. They're not on that level. Like, they're just not. It's very hard for kid actors. Like, that's lightning in a bottle stuff when you can get kid actors who are like that charismatic, that good at their roles. But yeah, these kids, it's like, I'm sure they're trying their hardest, but yeah, they're just not. They're just not up to it, in my opinion. I every time I see them, I'm like, it's like school play acting level. It's like at that level where it's like the emotions, you don't really believe it. The elephant kid is probably the most endearing of them.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Like, Andrew's like, I want to exterminate that race. I'm like, why?
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
God, that's terrible.
I'm not sure what his reasoning is. I don't think he likes the look of them.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah. But because they do look fake, like the elephant kid and his father. Yeah. It's like, no, that doesn't look like that's actually that. They look like someone wearing a costume. I don't buy that. But I mean, it's the same thing. They're not the same race, but they're very similar to what's the guy's name from the Cantina band, the Blue Elephant?
Max Rebo.
Max Rebo. That's it. Like in Return of the Jedi, he looked incredibly fake. Like he didn't look. Yeah. So it's, they might just be like homaging that, but yeah. But nah, so far, like, yeah, it's just not anything I find that exciting. Like, Jude Law is a fantastic actor, so obviously he's going to do a good job, but he's got so little to work with.
Yeah, which I kind of suspected. And from what I can gather, it seems like a lot of people comparatively like it just by virtue of it not being as just hot garbage as the other shows. Not
Yeah.
counting Andor, obviously, but I'm talking more of like you know, uh, the Acolyte and
Ahsoka,
Ahsoka, yeah, Book of Boba Fett, yeah, all those.
Obi-Wan, season 3 of Mando. We could be here for a while listing.
Yeah, listing off all the stinkers.
It's really getting to a point with Star Wars where I'm just unless the show is like Andor, like standout, I just don't have interest.
Yeah, I'm at that point too. Yeah,
It's the same thing with the MCU. Like I haven't seen a single episode of the new What If season that started like almost a week ago now. I haven't watched a single episode. I don't really feel like I have any interest in it because, like, first off, it's like they're doing the same storyline they've done for the past 2 seasons, where it's like, oh, we show these different like what if things, and then at the end, they're all going to team up to fight some like universal threat. And it's like you've done that twice now, but you're doing it again. Like,
yeah,
it's like
like more of this.
Yeah, but I'm kind of soured on the MCU in general. Like I'm not excited for Doomsday and not Doctor Doom. I'm not excited for the Fantastic Four. I'm
not Doctor Doom.
Yeah, that still just drives me insane. I don't know what their thinking was there. It's like I wasn't happy when they revealed it was RTD, and then they kept like they pulled like a J.K. Rowling where they kept talking, and they kept making it worse by talking. And they're like, okay, he's not from Latveria. He has no prior relationship to Reed Richards. He likely won't even be called Victor Von Doom. And it's like, so he's Tony Stark cosplaying. Like, I mean, what? How am I supposed to care? It's like, if he's not Doctor Doom, like, why should I have interest, and why are you putting him in Doctor Doom's most iconic storyline if it's not the real one? Like,
yeah, well, and it was obviously a desperation move to bring back Robert Downey because they know how much. But honestly, like, the amount that they're paying him is just insane. Like, it's just ungodly the amount of money they're paying this man. Like, no actor should be paid that much. Not even him.
Oh yeah, I'm trying to remember. He's got an end credits cameo in the Fantastic Four movie, and he's being paid like $40 million for like a few minute cameo, and it's like $40 million for a few minutes. Like, it kind of makes me like, kind of turns me off of Robert Downey Jr. because it's like,
oh yeah,
why would you ask for that? Like, why would like $40 million? I'm sure there's a lot of other actors out there that aren't like an A-lister that could benefit from some money, for doing the same thing. Like, it and just like when Comic-Con happened and the way they announced it, just his like the things he said, even in interviews, he made it sound like, you know what, I was bored, let's do this. It seems like it's kind of like, oh well, let's do this, kind of thing.
Yeah, like the most casual like 40 million ever made. It's just, and there are so many actors that don't even make that from like a proper role in like a 2.5 hour movie, let alone like a cameo.
Yeah, it just seems like he's basically just, like it's like there's so little passion there. Like, he doesn't seem like he's like, when he did Tony Stark, he was passionate about it. He really took that seriously. He really cared when Iron Man was made. Like, he put put a lot of himself into that because he had to prove that was the like comeback of his career. But now it's just seems like, you know, he's just like, oh well, let's try this, let's do this, let's, you know, it's like that's not what I want for one of the most iconic storylines in Marvel and Doctor Doom's most iconic storyline in Marvel. Which, if like, have you ever read Secret Wars?
No.
Oh, I highly recommend it. It's a really great storyline that his relationship with Reed plays a huge role in it, and very much in the resolution of it. So people going to see that movie who are like, oh, I'm going to get to see, you know, this story put to screen. It's going to be amazing. It's like, it doesn't look like they're adapting it much more other than just name only and like the most basic concept.
Yeah, just using name recognition and
yeah,
hoping that'll be enough to sucker people in, as well as you know, obviously Robert Downey Jr. Yeah, I don't have any high hopes for that movie. What's also a shame too is that the actor who played him in the Tim Story movies, he did a good job with what he was given. I mean, those movies were not good, but I think that in a better movie, a well-written movie, he could have like really killed it as Victor Von Doom.
Yeah, Julian McMahon.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, the only thing with him that I found and this is probably because I've seen him in a few different roles and he's always been pretty good. The only thing I found lacking of his Doom was like the anger. He didn't really seem to have that like bitterness to himself, like that kind of like anger that kind of rots his soul from the inside the way it is in the comics because he's you know in those movies he's you know kind of playful, kind of, you know, like when with Sue he's like Marco Polo and then he's like that, like that's not something. Yeah, but again, that's like the script, you know, he's just he was.
It's a script thing. It's a script thing and a direction thing. So I mean, I don't really blame him for that. Yeah, and as Silent Sam just pointed out, I mean, I completely agree. The multiversal team up was lame the first time around. I mean, I kind of this is the thing. Like, even when the MCU was at its best, I didn't even really love it that much. And that's not even just something that I'm saying in hindsight. Now that the MCU has like kind of gotten not so great in recent years, like I genuinely didn't even really care much for the MCU even during its like golden era. Like I liked you know, like the Captain America movies, and like you know, Winter Soldier and stuff, but they're not something I would even put in like my top 10 or anything like that in terms of my favorite movies of all time, you know.
And the multiverse saga has been like it's just
the multiverse shit. Yeah, it's just like, oh god, I'm so tired of multiverses.
Well, like yeah, I know you're not big into Star Trek, but there was an animated show that just ended called Star Trek Lower Decks that was created by the showrunner of Rick and Morty. And in the series finale for that, it is a multiversal story. And the character Jack Quaid plays on the show really rips into the concept of multiversal stories because his character, he has to play a character whose job it is to like go to all these different universes and police them and fix them. He's just like, it's nothing but, you know, gimmicks. It's like, oh, you know, Spock with a mustache, or it's Kirk with, you know, brown hair, or it's the, you know, like he like, so they really call it out. They're like, you don't do anything creative with the concept of a multiverse. It's just, oh, what if this character looked a little different? Or what if this character, you know, the same way, what if, like the show, what if it's like, oh, what if Steve Rogers had the Iron Man armor? Or what if, like, you don't do anything like creative, like why why even use Steve Rogers? Why not create a whole new character and be like, what if Captain America was this instead? Like, you know, or really do something drastically different instead of here's the same character, slightly different.
Yeah, it did seem like a lot of what they did with What If was pretty uninspired. Like, I feel like if you're gonna do something like that, if you're gonna do these alternate universe scenarios, there's like more interesting things that you can do than that, you know? Or like, what was the one they did with Black Panther? Wasn't like Black Panther becomes Thor or something? I don't even remember.
No, he becomes Star-Lord.
Oh, that was it. Yeah.
Yeah, he becomes Star-Lord, and it's like, so you basically, and that's the thing, is they basically put Chris Pratt's character onto him. It's like, it wasn't like, what if T'Challa was Star-Lord? It's like, basically, what if T'Challa was more like Chris Pratt? And it's like,
yeah,
Come on.
no, that like robs it of all. So basically, all you're doing is changing the character's face.
yeah. You're just swapping out their costumes, their cosmetics, but giving them like the same role. It's like, that doesn't really, like, what's the point of that? Yeah, I don't know. It's very creatively lazy, I feel like.
Well, yeah, it's like the same thing with Steve Rogers as the Hydra Stomper. It's like, it's Captain America wearing an Iron Man suit. That's it. His character, his personality is the exact same as him as Captain America. The only difference is he's wearing a different suit. It's like, do something creative, do something, you know, more bold with it. It's,
yeah.
I knew this one was stubborn. I did not know she would hire a witcher.
Let's say a mother's teeth.
like, that's why I think DC's approach to the multiverse, I mean, the CW approach wasn't good because CW, but in the comic books, it was great because each universe had its own set of characters. They weren't just copies of other characters. Like, originally, Shazam was from his own universe. He wasn't originally part of the main. It wasn't until Crisis on Infinite Earths that he got folded into the main DC universe. It's like all those characters, like the Question, Captain Atom, you know, Huntress, all those characters, they were from their own universes. So in their universe, like in Huntress's universe, like she's the one patrolling Gotham, not Batman. It's her, and she's not a bat type character at all. She's an archer, like she uses a crossbow, and her costume looks nothing like Batman. So it's like, yeah, that's different. That is that's completely different. Same as Supergirl in her universe didn't have the same powers as Supergirl in the main universe. She wasn't even called Supergirl. She's called Power Girl. And you know, her like, other than the super strength and durability, her power set was different. Her personality was completely different. Like, that's how you should do a multiverse.
Yeah, and that's why, like, because people have suggested doing something like that for Star Wars, doing like a Star Wars What Ifs, but it's like, sheesh, if they do that, I really hope they do something like more inspired than they did with Marvel.
Oh yeah,
damn. Like, they better. The most obvious one would be like either Anakin not becoming Darth Vader, or him redeeming himself in Return of the Jedi and surviving.
Well, they
like
did that. They did that in the comics. It's where we get white armor Vader from.
Which is, I think, is kind of goofy. It's like okay.
Yeah, where he's like wearing white armor because he's a good guy now. But what I like about that comic is Leia is like, no, Leia, because he, like, Luke redeems him and he survives, and then they return, and Leia's like, no, I don't want anything to do with you. I don't care that you're redeemed. She's like, you are a monster. You don't get a pass. Like, so
that totally makes sense. She wouldn't just accept that at face value. That's something that would take a lot of work to like bring her around to.
Yeah, so I think that they kind of did it well, like as far as that execution. But yeah, I agree that like white armor Vader looks kind of silly. Um, but
More General Grievous in a what if. I could use that, honestly. I think they could do
Yeah.
something interested with General Grievous. Get more of him. I'd be on board with that.
yeah,
What if the sequel trilogy was good?
that's not so much that's not so much a multiverse as a miracle.
Yeah, seriously.
That would take
Right
like
about
that would take a page one rewrite to get that'd be like somebody like the what if story would start with somebody going back in time and like shooting JJ Abrams or something, like at the end of Deadpool 2 where he's holding up the Green Lantern script. Like that would be how that would have to start, because that's the only way to save the sequels. It's like because they were tainted from the ground up. But you could do a thing like what if Palpatine, like what if like Yoda killed Palpatine and then you have like Vader as the Emperor instead, and then you could like because he's much more of a militant kind of person as opposed to Palpatine, who is more of a political maneuvering kind of guy. Basically the universe under like Vader's like iron fist without anything holding him back. Like I think that could be a really terrifying story of like what about Vader without that leash,
to hold them back. Yeah. No, that would be kind of neat actually. Kind of like what he was suggesting to Padme, where it's like we can roll everything together or whatever.
Yeah.
Like we could actually see the end result of that.
Yeah, we'll make everyone do what we think is right, like whether they like it or not. Like what we decide is right, and you could actually have a thing. I mean, you could even have in that story, maybe like Padme goes along with it or something. Like maybe in that universe, she's like seduced into that, and you don't have like. I just say like you could do some interesting stories there.
What if Boba Fett fled the Tusken Raiders when he had the chance and didn't give in to Stockholm syndrome? Oh, that's good. Yeah, that would be an interesting story to explore. What if he decided, I don't really like that these Tuskens, kept me chained up and starved me and, treated me like shit. What if I actually wanted to get revenge on them for that, which the old Boba probably would have done?
Oh, yeah. Like, what if Boba actually, tried to take over Tatooine? Like, instead of, the good guy Boba we got. Like, what if he actually was like the crime lord and that like
not the drugs are bad Boba.
Yeah, no, like can you imagine that? Like a Boba that like actually has it out for Luke Skywalker and like goes on a revenge quest to try and like take him out, like for knocking him into the Sarlacc, because like his whole thing with Han wasn't personal. He was just hired by Jabba. He's like, yeah, you hired a bounty, I'm going to deliver the guy to you. He had no personal stake in that, but given his background, how much he hates Jedi, like for like Luke's whole scheme that ended up with Boba, that like have him try to hunt down Luke. Like I know Luke wasn't the one who knocked him into the Sarlacc pit, but like it was his scheme that ended up with him in there.
Well, it was awfully convenient, wasn't it? How in Mando season 2, the two of them managed to not come into contact with each other. Like when in that finale, when Mando and all of his team are infiltrating Moff Gideon's like ship. It is funny how Boba like takes off so that he's not there when Luke shows up later. It's like,
Yeah.
well, because the writers clearly didn't want to have to like explore that.
Yeah, explain like, yeah, why isn't he, taking out the Jedi who's, indirectly responsible for what happened to him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't speak for the world you
They
watch.
really like I don't know why they felt the need to soften Boba the way they did.
We'll never know.
Yeah, there's a really great comic book
Not the only one.
where Boba tries to take out Darth Vader, and instead of like trying to use like just force, like trying to, no pun intended, but just trying to beat him through some kind of combat or some kind of thing, he plays psychological games with him. Like towards the end, he like goes to Mustafar, and he leads Vader to the spot where he burned, and he's like hiding from Vader, but he's taunting him, and he's like reminding him of everything, and he's trying to unbalance Vader and trying to like, so he's like that smart, ruthless bounty hunter, and then they turned him into this, yeah, like you said, the drugs are bad Vader. I'm sorry, the drugs are bad Boba, and it's like, yeah, like, can you imagine if they did that with any kind of like similar type of character? Like, what if like in Wolverine and Deadpool and Wolverine was like this like cheery kind of like really happy and kind of, it's like it kind of be like the same thing.
Yeah. Ugh.
Oh, we're back to the Robert Baratheon part.
Yeah, there he is. Get the breastplate stretcher now. I need this character to say that, but
yeah,
I'm not that lucky, unfortunately.
One tussle in the hay I'd have waved aside, put it out of my mind. But the woman
I assume they sanded out Boba's edges because they have a really hard time letting villains be villains when they're the POV for some reason. Yeah, Sheev made a video on that. And yeah, that's more than likely the motivation behind choices like that.
yeah. Like my pitch for the Boba Fett show would have been something similar to something like The Godfather, where you could have Boba. You could even have like in the beginning, Boba like has some kind of like high-minded ideals where he's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna take over, but I'm not gonna be like Jabba. I'm gonna rule, but and then bit by bit he has to like compromise it slowly. So by the end of it, he is a crime lord. Like he goes full crime lord. He's back to his original ways. And like that would have been more compelling to watch, him fail at redemption and descend back into it, as like a tragic kind of character there.
Wasn't exactly pleased.
Yeah.
Not the understatement if I've ever heard one. She flew into a fit.
Yeah, I think that's what a lot of people were expecting with that show. They were expecting akin to like, I mean, it almost sounds kind of naive in hindsight, considering everything we've gotten since then. But like, I think a lot of people were hoping for some sort of like crime drama or like a mafia style story, but we didn't get anything even remotely close to that.
Yeah, like they could have like, instead of doing the last episode as some kind of heroic like last stand against the other syndicates, do a Godfather style thing where it's like, yeah, he's struggling against all these syndicates throughout the series, and then in the final episode, like the heads of a lot of the other syndicates get taken out by Boba, and you could even do a thing with like Mando and that, where like have Mando, if you're going to have him in the show, have him like join Boba because he thinks Boba is actually going to make things better. And then you could have like a really cool thing at the end where the two of them part ways because he realizes, no, you just went back. You're just as bad as the guys you just took out. I'm not going to have anything, and set up some actual, tension.
Yeah.
That's a nice alternative for once. Like, yeah, let's set some actual tension in the show.
Crazy talk.
Yeah.
They started. Yeah, Dr. Afra. They absolutely started doing that. I mean, I stopped reading those comics at a certain point, but yeah, like she started off being like kind of doing dirty jobs for Vader, and being like kind of his personal, smuggler, bounty hunter, whatever you want to call her. Like, she would basically just get things for Vader and stuff, and she did some pretty morally dubious things. But then the moment she and Vader had a falling out, and he now wanted to kill her, it's like you could already see the trajectory. It's like, okay, yeah, they're gonna make her less of a villain now, and less like morally dubious, and she's gonna start to become more and more of a good guy. It's like, here we go again.
Yeah, they're scared to go there with, because Star Wars still has that, it's for kids, label around its neck, and it just can't escape that. So they're scared to really commit to, like, that's the thing with Andor, and that's one of the reasons Andor works so well, is it actually like does shy away from that. I wouldn't call, like, if somebody were to ask me, is Andor a show for kids, I'd probably be like, not really. It deals with some more complex subjects. It's it approaches things in a more adult way, and it's like, I think Star Wars needs to do that. I think it needs to like it needs to start embracing more serious aspects to the stories, rather than keeping it, this is, because you can still have shows like Skeleton Crew and that for the kids, but like the basic Star Wars, if it's going to survive, it needs to start going there. Like Sheev has said, like a band of brothers kind of show set during the Empire would be amazing. Like a really gritty thing. And they were going to do that, by the way, with Rogue One. I don't know if you've seen any of the early concept drawings and stuff like that for it, but there was like one where it was like a stormtrooper holding another stormtrooper, like cradling another stormtrooper during a battle, with like blood coming out the one stormtrooper's side, like bleeding from that. Like, that would have been a great visual on screen, is like, to see, this isn't just, faceless people shooting, laser pew-pews at each other. These are people. Like,
well, yeah, it's like the one thing that people praise The Force Awakens for about 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Like the opening scene that we get in that movie, where it's like, oh wow, but then obviously the rest of the movie and trilogy just goes right back to treating stormtroopers as disposable red shirts. So didn't last very long, but
and then you get Finn, whose entire reason for leaving the Empire was that he saw one of his fellow stormtroopers die bloody on the battlefield, and then by the end of the movie they blow up a planet full of stormtroopers, and he's like, cheering and kind of thing. Like so it's like, where was this concern? Like, I mean, in Last Jedi and even Rise of Skywalker, when he meets a group of other former stormtroopers, it's like, yet he's still very okay with, gunning down stormtroopers instead of trying to like save them, or trying to, because that would have been a compelling arc for Finn, would have been trying to like start up a stormtrooper rebellion, like have him, like that would have been something interesting.
Nope. 'Twas not to be. Like a basilisk just picks him up for no reason. Could just killed him, but you know, I'm gonna play with my food a bit.
Damn it! I can't leave him like that.
I don't know where I'm going. Do I go up here? Nope, not that way.
Come on, Siri, you're obviously a Targaryen. You should be able to control it.
Kind of does look like a Targaryen, honestly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've thought about that a few times, especially if she became like an empress or whatever. If she was sitting up there on a throne or something, she would look just like Rhaenyra or something.
Yeah.
Or Daenerys.
Daenerys, warrior princess. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm actually surprised by the end of Game of Thrones that Daenerys never really learned any kind of like actual combat. Like, yeah, you've got dragons. Like, obviously, she would count on her dragons to protect her, but you'd think like she would have like picked some stuff up just from all of her travels. You know, being around the Dothraki, the Unsullied. It's like you're not gonna pick up something from them, like even just by watching them. You know.
Yeah, I feel like any like noble or monarch or whatever in that universe should probably like learn some kind of fighting capability, especially if you're the last like of your family. You might want to just learn something. I know you've got soldiers and dragons and whatever else protecting you, but you'll want to know how to fight as just like a last line of defense, you know. In case anybody gets through all of your bodyguards and stuff, you want to be able to handle yourself.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Like,
But what do I know?
yeah. I think Star Wars, though, I think the only thing if they're gonna sort of like, I think the best thing for them to do would be like, this won't happen because Disney has sunk so much money into it. They need to make a return on it, but I would honestly like let it lie for a few years, like just let it kind of that, you know, and let like the sequels and all that, like all the like sort of tainted elements of it kind of like fade a little into the consciousness and then come back with something new. Like they can't keep doing the Empire versus Rebels, Jedi versus Sith thing. Like they just can't keep it going forever. It's really gotten stale. Like
Yeah.
you got to have something new, like Sheev and has said, like exploring the criminal world of Star Wars. Great idea. I think some kind of like invasion, like not necessarily the Vong, because they're not going to do. First off, they're not going to do it right, and it's already been done. Like it's in the books so much. It's like,
well, a lot of people have suggested the Grisks from the Thrawn, the canon Thrawn books, which you know, people are kind of holding their breath, wondering if like the story that's been built up in the Ahsoka series and all that is like leading to that. But I wouldn't put it past Dave Filoni for him to just like not even be aware that the Grisks are a thing. Like he's, I don't know.
I mean, that's the thing, is like we've had between Rebels and Ahsoka, we've never had any kind of explanation for Thrawn's motive. Like
Nope.
he's just been like a regular old like soldier of the Empire. Like he's not, they haven't explained why he follows, why he, you know, why he's there. So we don't even know if the Grisk exist in Filoni's version of Star Wars. Like we don't know if that's even a thing. So, and it would kind of feel weird if they just brought it out now, because it'd be like, well, why didn't you mention that? Why didn't you explore that in Rebels? Like have, or in Ahsoka, have him, like that would have been a good thing for him and Ezra, like give them like a thing where he explains to Ezra, why he's, with the Empire, that it's like, I need this because my people are under constant threat, and that I need the power of the Empire to save them. And you could have like some actual like like the thing of like Ezra maybe understanding a bit, or like something like that. But yeah, like they need to switch it up. It'd be like, because right now it's like, imagine if Star Trek had just stayed the same and it was like nothing but Klingons the whole time, where it's just like, oh, here's the latest thing the Klingons are doing that they have to fight against. Like it gets boring.
Yeah. Yep. I don't know. I don't know what Star Wars is like. It just seems like they, even after all this time, they still don't have a coherent plan or vision. Like, I don't even know where they're going with it at this point.
Well, that's the thing, is like the OT, when the OT finished, it pretty much finished. Like it was a very definitive end. At the end of Return of the Jedi, the Empire has been defeated. We're, the good has won. It's been done. And then they had to figure out a way, well, how do we, keep this going? They've had their victory, they've had their thing, like the story's basically done. So that's where the EU did understand that you got to change things up. That's why we got the Vong, that's why we got the Grisk, that's why we got like the New Republic timeline, and that where it's like the 100 years in the future thing, where it's like everything was different, where you had the like the Imperials, but they weren't like the other Imperials, they were more like a monarchy. And then you had like the Sith Jedi truce and treaty, and that, and it's like they changed things up, they switched around, and that really gave them the chance to tell new stories that a lot of people liked. But ever since like Filoni and Favreau got their hands on it, it's just like, no, we're just going to tell the exact same story again. We're just going to, put a new coat of paint on it. It's like, it's just not working.
No. What a shame. But at least we have Andor season 2 to look forward to. I really hope that's good. Funnily enough, I actually got, as a Christmas present, I got season 1 on Blu-ray. For the longest time, I didn't even know that there was a physical release for Andor season 1. But yeah, when I found out about that, I was like, yep, gotta get that as a gift, or gotta ask for that as a gift, because my family members are gonna ask me for ideas, and I gotta have something. So,
well, anytime it's any like show that's like on a streaming thing and I really like it, I always try to get the physical copy, because you can't trust like those sites to not, like in this day
keep
and
things
age.
up. Yeah,
it's very much a risk of, we're going to take it down for tax reasons, and it's like, no, yep.
No, it doesn't look dangerous.
I guess that's that. Doesn't eat much, so as long as he's no trouble, the boys might as well have.
That was your holiday, by the way.
Oh, not bad actually. Pretty enjoyable. Spent some time with friends. My family always does their stuff on Christmas Eve, so Christmas Day I didn't have much to do, and that was actually kind of nice. Just chilled out, watched stuff and that. But yeah, no. Were you doing like family stuff the whole time?
Yeah, went to my sister's place on Christmas Eve, and then my parents' place on Christmas Day. But yeah, it was a fun time. Um, I like people opening the gifts that I get for them more than actually like I like giving more than receiving.
Yeah, I'm the
I
same.
find that a lot more fun. Yeah.
I'm the same way. I love that look on someone's face when you give them something and you can see they're really happy about it. And that it's like, yes, it's like a feeling of accomplishment.
Yeah.
It's like, yes, I did well. I didn't screw it up. I managed to make it work. So yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm the same way. What kind of like or yeah, did you see Shiny's thing? He got that art tablet. He's been showing that off. He did a really good speaking of Star Wars, he did a really good like a stream yesterday where he drew one from scratch, just like things like
Oh.
yeah.
Oh, nice. No, I didn't see that, but that's cool.
Need some armor.
Okay. Yeah, if I was into art shit, I would probably I would love to get something like that too. Meteorite ore. I don't have any of that. But I want it.
Yeah. One show I gotta catch up on is Dune Prophecy. I saw like the first 2 episodes and then there was like I was just too busy and there was too many shows to watch and that I just kind of fell off it, but I gotta get caught up on that.
Yeah.
Have you checked it out at all?
I have not.
It's very much like kind of a space Game of Thrones. Kind of thing. Yeah, they really it's very different from the movies, from the movie Dune. Like it takes place like I think it's like 1,000 years or something before the events of Dune. Because it's about the like real like rise of the Bene Gesserit and that and their whole. It's how they really come up with the plan for their breeding programs and that. Like yeah, the first 2 episodes were decent. I wouldn't say they were like amazing, like something stellar, but they were pretty decent.
Nice.
Yeah. Did you watch Penguin?
No, I think I might have mentioned that one's on my to-do list. I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Yeah, I highly recommend that. That's just a great show. That's again a show that doesn't feel the need to like even though it's set in the Batman universe, it's like this is not a show that feels like it needs to be kiddish.
I've not watched Creature Commandos. That's what Silent Sam was asking. Have you seen that? Have you checked that out?
No, not yet. I've been meaning to. I was gonna just like I think it's like midway through its run right now, so I've kind of been like, like with me with shows, it's always like if it's like halfway in and I still haven't caught an episode, I'm just gonna let it finish and just watch it all as one thing. That's usually how I approach that. It's like, oh well, half of it's over now. I might as well just wait and then watch it all at once. No, I haven't seen it. Like, I've heard mixed reviews though from people on it. So, yeah, like some aspects people are excited about, some not. It's going to be interesting. Like I can definitely, from what I saw in the trailers, I can definitely see like James Gunn's influence. Like I don't think I don't think he wrote it. I'm not sure on that. Like I can check, but I don't think he wrote it, but I can see his influence.
Yeah, that seems like the kind of relatively obscure project that he would be a part of. You know, like that's something that he would be into.
Well, yeah, because he loves kind of the. No, it is written by him. Yeah, he did write it. He didn't. He's not the showrunner or the producer or anything like that. So
It's giving off Major the Suicide Squad vibes. Huh. Okay. I guess that makes sense then.
yeah, I'm pretty. I mean, I'm excited for Superman. I'm also like I'm a little resentful because we lost Superman and Lois because of it, but
Yeah.
because DC has this really weird policy. Well, I guess Warner, it's not really DC, it's Warner Brothers, has always had this really weird policy where they will not allow a TV version of a character and a movie version to exist at the same time.
Yeah.
It's why when Suicide Squad came out, they had to kill off because the TV show Arrow had their own version of the Squad, and then when the first Suicide Squad movie was coming out, they're like, we got to kill them off the show. We can't, have them at the same time. And it's like, I don't understand that. It's like, why do you think your audience can't handle,
You gave me quite a start.
watching, multiple versions of a character? Like,
Yeah, that's a bizarre policy.
because there was even a story, like I think it was like a week and a half ago, where I guess like James Gunn was saying he'd be fine with folding Pattinson's Batman into the DCU, and it's like, no, you have your own. You like they've been saying like Brave and the Bold, you're gonna have your own Batman. It's like you don't need to. We can have two Batman at the same time.
Impossible.
Yeah, it's like we're big boys. We can handle it. We'll be okay. We promise. But yeah, no, that just really bothered me. It's like we lost Superman and Lois for this. So for a while, I was actually kind of resentful. But then I saw the trailer for Superman, and I'm like, yeah, this does look really interesting. So yeah, I'm still I'll give it a shot.
Yeah.
And they were smart to go with like David Cornsweet for Superman because he's a relatively unknown. Like he's not entirely, but he's not a big name actor. And it's like, so yeah, Silent. It was very recent. It was like very recent. Like originally Gunn said that Pattinson's Batman was going to be an Elseworld story. Like he didn't say that it is going to join the DCU. He said that he'd be like happy if that, like, to have that happen, like to have that Robert Pattinson was like, he thought it was, he'd be happy to have it too. So that's like there's been no confirmation that it's gonna happen. It's just they're saying, yeah, no, that would be a good thing. And it's like, no, that would not be a good thing, because I think that would be very tonally inconsistent with the world that Gunn is making.
Since I was no common wart charmer, I brewed him a potion to delay nervous tissue degeneration, stave off.
By the way, Kira, she's better than Triss as well. She is fucking Triss is the worst. She is a manipulator and a liar as well. But she's still better than Triss. I just wanted to point that out since I'm talking to her. Yeah, Triss is the worst. The worst sorceress and the worst potential love interest for Geralt. I will take that to the grave with me. Anyway, carry on. I just wanted to throw that one out there.
Well, I mean, every good story needs its femme fatale character, like like.
Triss isn't even a femme fatale. I would argue that Yennefer is more of a femme fatale, and I love her way more than Triss.
the village. Aren't
Well,
they?
yeah, but it's like you got to have that. Like the one, it's a common like strategy in films where it's like it's a way to get people more invested in the actual love story if you have the character meet a potential one that's like really bad for them, like you can see like, no, this would never work, this is really bad. It gets you more invested in the like the I guess, for lack of a better way to say it, the correct partner for them.
Yeah.
What others
Yeah,
say
that's
is
true.
orientation.
Sometimes you have
That's
to,
all you care about.
you don't realize,
Listen,
you know,
I didn't
the good
say
option
anything
until you
bad,
experience
just
the bad
don't
one.
get caught because some fool with
I get that.
his fingernails
I
went
hate love
Yeah.
triangles as well, but they're still a very common trope.
Who went to the island for food?
Excuse me.
Lord had been murdered.
But yeah, I think like
A real gentleman.
with this Superman thing, the only issue I have with the Superman movie coming up is
H lived on the island. Do you
like
know?
the whole thing with like it has Hawk Girl, Mr. Terrific, Guy Gardner. It's like just let it be a Superman story.
Even those who escaped the Isle soon
Yeah.
suffered agonizing deaths.
Well, they saw, you know, again, you can't judge trailers too much, but the trailer gave off a good vibe that I think people liked. It's just, thank God we finally just get back to
I knew
a
if I
Superman
did
who
this,
seems to
naturally
actually
you'll need
want to
sail the
save
Black Isle.
people, and
Fine.
it just
Then-
appears to be
Well,
classic
those
Superman.
who
I don't know.
wander the Isle
Like, that's
establish
just a breath of
rapport.
fresh air
Don't know how.
at this
Well, yeah.
point.
They could point
Well,
us in the
I'm very excited for again Nicholas Holt. I'm like very much
Sure.
praising him.
Well,
Is
look,
like
I should keep it afterwards in appreciation.
I think he's going to do a fantastic job as Lex Luthor. I think he's going to steal the movie as Lex Luthor. Because just even from the trailer, like you can see what they're going for is he's playing that resentful Lex, that jealous and like it's not going to be about like, you know, oh, he's, you know, we have to distrust the alien, we have to, it's like very much setting up like he's jealous of this, you know, uber powered being who gets all the love and gets all the adoration. They're playing into that. We haven't seen that Lex before since what was it, that Superman show from the 90s that had like Terry Hatcher in it. Is like that was the last time we had that version of Lex where it was like he was motivated by the pettiness as opposed to like xenophobic Lex or like in Superman and Lois. Don't get me wrong, I like that Lex Luthor, but like that's like the vengeance driven, you know, personal Lex, whereas like Holt is playing the, you know, like narcissistic, you know, I want to be the powerful guy, I want to be the guy everyone loves, kind of thing. So I think he's gonna I think he's gonna do a fantastic job. That's got me really excited.
Yeah. No, he's I mean, he's already been in a fair number of things over the past like decade, but it seems like he's really going places.
That's why they're so rare.
I've been pretty happy with his stuff.
So no chance.
Well, like I said,
Each using one.
it's good to see him. It's good to see him finally taking off, like really taking off, because it's very hard for like actors, male actors in particular, who are like that kind of pretty boy, attractive kind of look. It's very hard for them to be taken seriously in Hollywood. Like I was saying, like Leonardo DiCaprio had to really ugly himself up to get like, you know, that kind of recognition. Like it says a lot that the film that finally got him his Oscar win was The Revenant, where he's like scraggly with a long beard and like long mess of hair. It's like, yes, Silent. He was amazing in Nosferatu. He was absolutely fantastic. Like he better get an Oscar nom for that at the very least. Like Like that was just an incredible performance. Because even when he's in bad movies like Dark Phoenix, and that he still tries, he's still giving 100% to his performance. It's just he was in a really bad movie.
Well, yeah, and even the earlier like prequel X-Men films, I know that James McAvoy and Michael Fassbender got most of the fanfare for those.
Yeah.
But he was really underappreciated in those, like, because he was, I would say, the next best in those movies after those two.
Well, yeah, and, in First Class, I really feel bad for him when he had to, you know, deal with that all that makeup for Beast at the end.
Yeah,
Like, it's so hard to act through that because that was real. Like, they thankfully, like, that's an area where I actually like was happy with CGI, is like for Days of Future Past, and like that is like they decided, no, we're going to do it CGI because that way he can act when he
Yeah.
doesn't have his entire face covered in a prosthetic. Like, but yeah, no,
Let me
he is like. Have you seen Juror number 2?
No, that came out this year, right?
Yeah, it came out like about a month or so ago, around that. Yeah, if you've ever heard of the film, it's kind of a spiritual sequel to 12 Angry Men. Like, it's not a literal sequel, but it's very much like a spiritual sequel to that film. But he's, again, that's another one where he's just brilliant. He's fantastic. Like, he takes what could be a very simple character and really gives it depth. Like, really, like, gives it a very complex, layered performance, where on paper it'd be an incredibly simple, like, kind of almost a one note type of character.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think he's going to be the best live action Lex since Michael Rosenbaum. Have you seen Smallville?
No, Smallville was kind of before my time, and I never really like went back and rewatched it.
Yeah, I didn't. I caught it on reruns myself. Noach is watching through it right now, and yeah, Michael Rosenbaum, just a fantastic Lex Luthor. just again, not the, like, Holt's playing a very different kind of Lex, but yeah, he was, for the longest time, he was like the live action Lex Luthor. Like, everyone's like number one. But I think Holt is gonna. I think Holt might actually have a chance at topping it. I still don't know what's the name of the actor who's playing Lois Lane.
Oh, I'm not sure. I didn't get a good look at her in the trailer, and I didn't really pay attention to the cast list.
Yeah, that's one of the things for the movie that I'm not sold on yet. Because aside from like Smallville and Superman and Lois, there haven't been very many good on-screen portrayals of that relationship. Like, like in the Snyder movies, like, I'm sorry, but Cavill and Amy Adams, there was no chemistry there. Like,
No, not at all.
I didn't believe it for a second. So, and then like even in the original, like, 78 Superman, like with Margot Kidder, it's like, nah. it wasn't believable. It wasn't like then she does that whole, like, can you read my mind speech, which is awful on its own. But yeah. So that's one thing I'm still gotta get sold on in this movie, is like the romance between Superman and Lois.
I would hope that they would have learned their lessons from like what worked and didn't work. I mean, let's be honest. There's very little that worked in the Snyder movies, the Snyderverse stuff. But you know, hopefully they would learn from that and adjust accordingly. I don't know.
Well, that's where like Superman and Lois, I would say, is like the gold standard. I think that's the best portrayal of their relationship that's ever been put to screen. Because you believe not only the romance, but you see them as a team. You see them as like that connection between them, that like complete trust, that everything, it just works on every level.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's I think that might be the like I think the thing that the movie is going to have a hard time living up to, especially since they canceled Superman and Lois because of this. Like, it's going to be hard for the movie to like measure up. Like, they're really going to have to work hard to do that.
Killed him. Don't you know?
Yeah.
That name doesn't mean much to me.
Well, I wish them the best of luck.
Yeah.
And I'd love to have a good Superman film again.
Huge.
Well, I was telling the guys, like, even the costume, it's like, I'm not a big fan of the logo, but in a way it kind of works. Because the new logo they have for the chest, like the chest insignia, it's like the costume he wears in that movie, it has an alien look to it, but it also looks homemade. Like, it doesn't look like I've had a big problem with like Cavill's, outfits, and like Brandon Routh in Superman Returns, and like even to some degree Tyler Hoechlin's thing in Superman and Lois. Like, it just comes off too like artificial. It looks like something that was like generated for him, as opposed to something, because that's the whole thing, is like, from the comics, he's like, the kid says, oh wow, great suit. He's like, thanks, my mom made it for me. And like in this movie, in Gun Superman, it's like, yeah, I would buy that costume was made by somebody for him. Like, that doesn't look like overly stylized. It doesn't look overly like professional. It looks like it was made by a person. Like,
right. Was wounded, most likely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, we were talking earlier about the multiverse thing. They're going to double down on it with the next Spider-Man movie. It's going to be even more about the other two Spider-Men.
Oh God.
Yeah.
No,
So,
that was a good one and done. You don't need to ruin a whole thing, but I knew they were going to, though. I knew that they would not be able to help themselves.
no, and it's like, so what I'm worried about is that the next Spider-Man movie is going to be all about undoing everything from like
No Way Home.
No Way Home, where it's going to be like, oh, he's going to hook back up with MJ and Ned, and like he's going to, it's like, no, that at least that had consequences. Like, let that be the consequence, because like he I was always saying, for me, Peter's kind of like at least one of the villains of No Way Home, in a way, where it's like he causes a lot of like danger, and like, gets Aunt May killed and all that. And it was nice that he paid a price for it in the end. He had to be essentially punished for his actions. So yeah, if they undo it, that just wipes that away. But I don't even know who the villain could be. Like,
it's not here. Must have fled through another exit.
Yeah, I don't even know. I just, yeah, well, it's funny because No Way Home was like my one foray into the MCU post Endgame. It was like the one thing that I gave any sort of shit about. But even that's gonna get like run into the ground. I mean, No Way Home had plenty of problems anyway. Don't get me wrong, but it was at least a fun time. And it was nice to have like to bring back the other two Spider-Men like just once as like a one-time thing. But yeah, of course they can't let that sit. The movie made money. They want more money. So yeah, gotta do that again.
Yeah, because it's like, and what really sucks is if they didn't do that, if they like whatever the next Spider-Man movie was, if they just for once let it be just a Spider-Man movie, just let it be him fighting one of his villains, let him, that, and then when Secret Wars comes around, that's when they could bring back the other two Spider-Men and be like, okay, it's this big multiversal, movie, give them, kind of thing. Like you could like have like, and what I would think is if they were going to bring, the Tobey Maguire, especially his Spider-Man back in like Secret Wars and that, I think he should be killed off. I think he should get a death if he comes in as well, like just like he ends up like giving his life to save either like Peter or somebody else, and it's like, well, like that is how that should be done. But I think this should have been, because that's the thing is we haven't had a proper MCU Spider-Man movie really. It's either his villains being turned into Iron Man villains, or it's him setting up something as part of the saga. He hasn't gotten like his movie yet, where it's just about him and one of his villains.
No, not really.
Yeah.
I mean, Homecoming was sort of the closest we got to that, but even that was like not. That was still set up for other things as well.
Well, I mean, and in that movie, the Vulture is the person he's mad at is Tony Stark.
Yeah,
that's who he's got a beef with. He actually likes Peter in that movie. He's he kind of, that's why he gives him the free warning. He's like, look, I like you. Stay out of my business, or I'm gonna have to do this. I don't want to, but I'm gonna have to do this to you. Whereas, like, I would like it if he had an actual villain where it's like, no, this is his villain. It's all about him. It's, it's not about like, somebody that like even with Mysterio was mad at Tony Stark. It's like, no, I want Spider-Man to interact. I don't know who they could use as a villain. I'm trying to think of like somebody they could bring in that they haven't done yet. But
yeah.
Like
Scorpion. I didn't even know that Scorpion was in the MCU.
Yeah. But again, I have a feeling if they brought Scorpion in because he wears like a suit, like a mechanical suit, I have a feeling they'd like tie it into Iron Man somehow.
Oh God, yeah. I'm so tired of that. I'm so tired of everything like relating back to that,
Oh yeah. They really need to, that's the thing is like, it's really gonna like it's gonna almost kind of have the same Star Wars effect eventually with it. Cause like for Secret Wars, they're bringing back Tony, they're bringing back Chris Evans is coming back, and it's just like, move on, like do the work. They want the quick easy thing. It's like, yeah, Silent, he was the guy. He was the guy with the scar across his eye. But yeah, it's like, do the work, make us fall in love with a new generation of heroes. Like you did it once before, do it again. because it wasn't the characters themselves that did that. Like, I mean, people knew about Captain America, but nobody was like a big Captain America fan before the movie. Same thing with Iron Man, is like barely anyone knew who Iron Man was. So it wasn't the name recognition that made those films work. It was good writing, creating, compelling characters, hiring good actors. Just do that again with a new group.
You're asking a lot.
Yeah.
I just keep saying that every time. Like, you just suggest they do anything. Oh, that's fun.
Well, yeah, it's like, just put in the work. You can't coast.
Yeah.
Like
they want to keep coasting. They're trying.
They want to make, well, that's the whole industry right now with like artificial intelligence. They're like, we want to do the minimal amount of work and make the most amount of money. And it's like, it hasn't worked so far. It's failing because that's just not how that works. You got to put in the work, like, because otherwise your audience just isn't going to buy into it.
Nope.
And that's the thing with what's his name, the CEO of Sony Pictures. He gave this, I don't know if you saw this interview that came out today, but he's trying to justify their decision to stop doing like Spider-Man villain movies. He's like, oh, it doesn't even matter. He's like the critics have been so unfair to us that he's like, we could put out the best movie of that and it will still bomb because the critics have created this idea that they're like just terrible by nature. And it's just such a
cop out. That's not like, it's like, you're not making the best. Like, a lot of the movies you've been making are terrible, like Kraven the Hunter, Morbius. These are terrible films. Like, God, that's such a cop out excuse where it's like, you can't accept us for what we're doing, and it's never going to be good enough. It's like, we just want the bare minimum level of quality, my dude.
Yeah, it's just like,
Jesus.
I kind of think if they made that CEO guy, if they actually like sat him down and forced him to watch Morbius, Madam Web, and Kraven the Hunter, it'd be like that scene in the Batman with the Penguin where Gordon's like showing him the murder photos, and he's like, "What are you showing me? What are you showing?"
Yeah.
The same reaction, like, "What do you?"
Well, yeah, that's kind of what I wonder. It's like, have you ever actually like watched your own film? Oh shit! Whoops.
Yeah, it's like, I think if you actually sat him down and were like, okay, you think the critics were too harsh on this? You sit through all 3 Venom movies, Morbius, Madam Web, and Kraven back to back, and then you tell us you honestly think those are good movies. I don't think he'd be able to make it. I don't think I think he'd crack.
Yeah, no, I firmly believe that. I believe that for like a lot of these CEOs too. Like, if they actually had to sit through the entirety of like their own films, I do not surely there's no way that they would actually believe that they're like great.
No,
I'm sure that maybe their excuse at that point would be like, well, I'm not the target demographic for this. It's for kids, and like they would say something like that, to deflect. Just because I don't like it doesn't mean it's not good.
Yeah, Silent Sam's comparing it to the scene from Red Dragon with
Dollarhide. Yeah, he's like,
do you see?
Do you see?
Yeah,
when he's going through the projector and he gets to like the people that he killed.
Yeah,
Mrs. Leeds changing. Do you see? Yeah, watching. So if I had any like editing capability whatsoever, I would like take that clip and try to like put in clips of Morbius in there. Philip Seymour Hoffman sitting in the chair going like, oh god. Oh, that's funny.
And it really frustrated, like the recent revelation that there was no contract preventing them from using Spider-Man. Like, 'cause that was the excuse people thought for the longest time. They're like, oh yeah, they're kind of stuck. They can't use Spider-Man, so they're doing what. It's like, no, they could have used Spider-Man. But I always said,
Jesus Christ, what's happening? my vote got overturned. Some of the physics in this game are wonky sometimes. Jesus Christ.
Again, now I'm just picturing Henry Cavill on the show with the boat
drowning.
overturned. Yeah, he's just flopping on the deck trying to.
Oh God, no!
It's just like the bad guys are just watching from the shore, and they're just like with this really confused, mesmerized look on their face, like, what the hell is going? What is he doing? But I've been saying for the longest time with the Spider-Man thing, it's like, who says you have to use Peter Parker? Like the MCU, or not the MCU, sorry, the Marvel Comics has a lot of different Spider people. Like there's, the Ben Reilly Scarlet Spider. There's the Kane Parker Scarlet Spider, which would be a great one for like against Venom. Like pit Venom against like a, vigilante kind of more Batman type spider. But like there's so many different spider people. It's like just use them. Like but because you can't have like the Joker, the first Joker movie, not the god awful sequel, but the first Joker movie kind of worked because it was the story of his descent into madness. It was the story of how he, became the Joker. It wasn't like they weren't setting him up as a hero. They weren't setting him up as, like an anti-hero or that. It was like, no, he is a villain, but here's how he became a villain. It was treated as a serious thing. And then, of course, the sequel spat all over that. But it's like, like if you're going to do Morbius, make it into a really like gothic tragedy, like have him by the end of it, just have him be a full out monster. Like he's a vampire, he's a killer, he's a thing, like show his descent into that.
Agreed.
But no, the same thing, like silent. It's very similar to Star Wars. It's like you can't just let their villains really go for it. They always have to be like watered down.
Yeah. It's the world we live in.
Yeah. Yeah. And even when they let them be villains in Star Wars too, it's like they always got to be kind of like like kind of like more cartoonish villains and not, strictly villainous. Because like in Rogue One, when there's that scene between Krennic and Vader where Vader, does the like choke and he like makes his little quip, don't choke on your aspiration. It's like how much more powerful would that scene have been if Krennic had said his line, I'm still in charge, right? And then you just see the slight tilt in Vader's head, like, and then you just see like Krennic fly back into the wall like a huge force push. And
like he doesn't even need to say anything. Like there's actually like a fair number of moments like that with Vader in the OT where like he says more from like not talking than like talking. I mean, the most obvious one is which George Lucas fucked up was in Return of the Jedi when he saves Luke. He had to throw in the stupid no line in the Blu-ray versions and the Disney Plus versions. Yeah. But it was so much more powerful the first time around when he like didn't say anything. Like you could already tell like what he's thinking and like the internal conflict and everything. without him having to actually say a word and him being behind a mask.
And it's like in Empire Strikes Back when he's torturing Han Solo. He just stands there and watches. He doesn't say anything to him. He doesn't taunt him. He doesn't. He's just standing there as Han's lowered, towards the sparking.
The torture chair thing.
Yeah, and Vader just, and even Han, like that great line from Han, it's like, he didn't even ask me anything, like that show, like in Rogue One, if he had done that, if he had just you just see his head tilt a little bit towards Krennic and then Krennic like violently flies back, it really, that would have communicated like this guy is an incredibly dangerous guy who's barely holding back what he really could do to somebody. Like if they, and that to me makes them, it's like the Michael Myers thing.
Oh yeah.
Where it's like, they don't need to say anything. You get this idea that, they are like, the person is like just a true danger. And if you're not careful, they will just utterly destroy you.
Yeah. Oh, Trilla was Trilla was a pretty decent villain by Disney Star Wars standards. I liked her well enough as a villain in Jedi Fallen Order. As far as her and you mentioned the redemption, Silent Sam, but that was a very short-lived redemption. If it's any consolation, I mean, Vader literally kills her 2 seconds later, so that's okay.
Which I find that more powerful than Reva, where it's like,
oh god, well yeah, there's no like contest between her and Reva.
Well, like, have you seen the Patterson cut of Obi-Wan?
No, I haven't. Somebody sent that to me a while ago, but I still have yet to sit down and watch it because I heard it actually is pretty good.
Well, he cut out the whole, like, her going to the Lars homestead in the end and everything. Like, he literally has her die from being stabbed by Vader.
But that's so much better, yeah.
But even there, like, it is better, but I still think Trilla's, like, the way it's handled with Trilla is still better even then. With that, avenge us, like do it for those of us who are never going to get the chance, kind of thing. Like
come here to ask nicely.
I think that was much done to a much better payoff than in Obi-Wan.
Well, plus the actual personal history that they set up between Trilla and Seer. It's like she still has so much rage and anger over feeling like Seer betrayed her, but to have Seer finally just give her a heartfelt apology, it's almost like that's, she says like, well, it's too late. I've already done bad things. Like we can't really go back, but finally getting some sort of like apology from the mentor who she thinks failed her was enough to at least like sway her, whereas like Reva didn't really have any kind of history with Obi-Wan. So I don't know. It's not like, and obviously Vader's not going to fucking apologize to her for killing her friends, nor did he. So
yeah, and it's like, what would Reva even have to blame Obi-Wan for? It's like, what would she be like? Well, why didn't you kill him? Obi-Wan would just turn around and go,
well, I tried to. So
yeah, you think it's easy? You're more than welcome to give it your best shot if you think it's so easy.
Well, yeah, and also like, why weren't you there to protect our friends? It's like I was kind of off fighting in the Clone Wars, but
yeah,
so we're not gonna. That's a detail, I guess.
Yeah, I think that was definitely kind of a dumb thing in the show when Vader reveals that he knew who she was all along. Like, I mean, I would believe that he would sense her intentions,
mm-hmm.
but the fact that he remembers exactly who she was, like, but remembers that she was that specific Padawan. It's like, I don't think so.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. He wouldn't risk that. He wouldn't risk her stabbing him in the back at any time, no matter how powerful he is.
I don't think. Well, I don't even believe he would remember that, like her as that
Yeah, yeah.
specific Padawan. It's like all the people he's killed by that point, all the people.
Yeah, just a random, just a random Padawan. Like,
yeah.
Seriously doubt that. But then, yeah, even if he did, it's like he's not gonna put up with this. He's not gonna keep her around.
Yeah. I don't even like how, to be honest, in Revenge of the Sith, I don't even like how they handled the Padawan, like the killing of the Padawans. I don't think it should have been. No. I don't think it should have been him. I think he should have entered the room, have like the clones come in behind him, have them pull their guns up, have the Padawan, have them turn to him, and like plead, like the kind of like, what's supposed to, what are we supposed to do, like what's happening, and then I would have just had him like, show like the conflict on his face, and then just have him walk out of the room, and like have him walk down the hallway, and you just hear the blaster fire, like in the background. That's all you hear is the sound of blasters going. I think that would have been so much more powerful, because I do not believe that he would have done that at that point. Like, even though, he was a Sith by the, he had turned to the dark side, I don't think he would have been at that point yet where he would, slaughter a room full of children. I
don't believe so either. No, I don't buy it. I know that's one of the most criticized parts of Revenge of the Sith, but I think it's very true.
Yeah, like they just it just reeks of, we're going to do this for the shock value. We're going to do this for because it's going to be like a scene that's going to really surprise the audience, and that it's going to be very edgy and without any like real meaning behind it.
Yeah.
Someone dragged something across the floor, or dragged it from one wall to the other.
Yeah. There really is so much in the prequels that had the potential to be good, but they just didn't know how to properly execute it.
Yeah.
Like what I would have done with the Palpatine Yoda fight, what I would have done differently is I would have had that fight, like towards the end of the fight, have Yoda starting to use, like, not like any kind of dark side power per se, but show him starting to be more forceful, starting to, fight more aggressively, and then have that be the reason he goes into exile, where he's like, I'm turning, if I continue, I'm going to, I run the risk of turning into, what I like, sort of that ultimate culmination of the fall of the Jedi, like how far they've fallen as an order, like have that be a thing where he's like, no, and that like have that be the reason he goes into exile, where he's like, I can't be the person who finishes this, like we've, out of shame and out of that, have him go into exile to be like, I think that would have been more powerful than I got knocked off of a floating, council thing one time, and then just went, no, I'm out. Because that's always been like kind of a thing where people have always been like, well, why didn't he just jump back up and keep fighting? Like instead he's just like piecing out and going, I'm just going to let the Empire be a thing. I'm just going to piece out. But like if they had done it to the point where he would almost have to quasi become Palpatine to defeat Palpatine, then it makes sense for him to be like, I just cannot be the one to take this guy down. It would, you know, the result would be as bad as, you know, and then that would make sense.
I'm cold. Why has no one come for me? I cannot leave this place. I see no way out. Who are you? Do you seek to hurt me as well?
Don't be afraid. I want to lift the curse that grips this island. Your turn to tell me who you are. The other ghosts, they couldn't see me.
I'm special. Always was. The rare beauty. The Lord's daughter. These lands, as far as the eye can see, were ours. My family and I, we hid in the Mage's Tower to await the war's end, the end of hard times. It was not to be forever.
Mage who lived here. Who was he?
Alexander? I hardly knew him. He spent most of his time locked away in this tower. He's dead too, you know. They're all dead. Mountains of corpses, yet I stand here alone, all alone. They've all abandoned me. Even he who promised me everlasting love. You will abandon me as well.
If I can lift the curse, you yourself will be free to leave. Tell me what happened here. Peasants sailed to the island to ask for food. Is that true?
No. They came to rob and kill. They thought us rich, believed we'd stowed ourselves away here to laugh at their misery. Yet we had little food as well. Too little to share with those who came. They slaughtered everyone. I heard my father cry out, but the mage told me not to reveal myself or let anyone in. He gave me a potion. If I was discovered, I was to drink it. He said everything would be all right.
What kind of potion was it? Remember its smell? What it looked like?
I remember only that I feared to drink it.
Didn't trust the mage?
In the village, they claimed he meddled in disease. Not curing it, but causing it. They said he lured rats into the tower, infected them with the Catriona. Any rumors, surely, but I was afraid. So horribly afraid. And then I heard him. The loved Graham. He called to me. I opened the door for him, but others rushed in. They lunged at me and...
Your beloved failed to save you. Why?
There were too many. Leave her be, he shouted. He grabbed at them, tried to stop them.
This is off topic, but going back to Veilguard and Mass Effect from last stream, how do you feel about all romanceable characters being eligible for any gender? I mean, it doesn't bother me that much, but I kind of prefer, like, it just doesn't really make a whole ton of sense to me when every single character in the game is basically pansexual. That doesn't really, because that's just, I don't know, the likelihood of that is just incredibly unrealistic. I just prefer the idea of having various characters with their own preferences and stuff in terms of the companions.
Yeah,
I know.
Hadn't worn off yet. You were paralyzed.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say it makes it a more fleshed out world. It's, I mean, having every character be pansexual is, you know, just as unimaginative as having every single character be straight. It's like,
yeah,
there should be diverse, like it should reflect like the real world kind of thing, where every, you know, it's the diversity. Unless, like, if they're gonna do that, if they're gonna have every single character be pansexual, they've got to create a reason to justify it. Like in Star Trek, for example, they have a species where they have these symbiotes inside of them, and when they die, they pass the symbiote on to another person. So as a culture, they've kind of lost the idea of gender-based sexuality because the symbiote can be passed to a man or a woman, and it's just like over time they just lost the entire concept of being attracted to someone based on gender because they're so used themselves to be switching between genders all the time. Like, so it makes sense that their entire species is pansexual.
Yeah, it's a very special circumstance. You know, it's number one. I mean, it's a species thing. Number two, it's a sci-fi world in which circumstances and have changed. You know, over a long period of time. Whereas this, I mean, especially in the case of Veilguard, like you can't really have the previous games in which you did have characters that had, you know, their own preferences and stuff, only to just like divert to this. That doesn't really make sense. Like that's something you could maybe do in like the Mass Effect universe as like a sci-fi world, but even then, I don't know. It just makes more sense that characters, you know, like you said, in terms of diversity, characters have their own preferences and prefer certain things. Now, what you could do is you could have it so that every single companion can be romanced by the player character, but the way that you do that is not by making them all pansexual, like canonically. What you do is that you just make it like up to interpretation. You just make it so that like you can headcanon them as whatever you want.
Yeah.
Like if you're a male character and you romance like a male companion, you could headcanon them as being gay or bi or whatever. Or if you're a male character and you're romancing a female companion, you know, you could headcanon them as being straight or bi or whatever. Like you don't even need to ask the question. You know, you don't even need to like bring up what their actual orientation is, but you could still make them like every single companion romanceable. Because I know that obviously restricting certain companions to certain genders, you know, it disappoints some people. It's like, oh, I wanted to romance that character, but I couldn't because they have their preferences. The easy way around that is to just, you know, make it so that we don't actually know what their preferences are.
Well, that's how it's handled in games like Skyrim, where you can get a wife, you can pick your companion, and then you can romance that companion, and you can, you know, you can get, you know, they become either your wife or your husband. But yeah, that's like in that game, because that's your character. You can create, like you said, your own head canon, and that's how it works. And that's, yeah, I do agree that that's the smart way to do it. It's one of the few things. It's like something about Skyrim, because I have some issues with Skyrim, but it's like, yeah, that's one of the things they actually do very well, is like how they handle that, where, you know, you can do exactly what you just said, where you kind of create your own like
backstory or you know, for the companion. Yeah, at least that aspect of their backstory. I mean, not everything, but need to I'm gonna cycle through this dialogue again. It shows the wrong option before.
Yeah, I can't wait for more information on Witcher 4. Like, one thing I want to know is like, how far is the time jump?
Yeah, they said, I can't remember if this was official, but I think they said something about her being like in her 30s now. So maybe somewhere around a decade, maybe not quite a decade, or maybe slightly over a decade, but I would say somewhere around there, maybe. But then again, given that she's an actual Witcher now, like she actually underwent the trial of the grasses, she could actually age slowly, just like other Witchers do. So we don't actually know. I mean, she might look like she's in her 30s now, but we don't know how long she's
Could
been
be right.
a
My
Witcher.
fate is tied to the isle.
Yeah,
So,
but
I don't know.
just judging from that cinematic, I would say, you know,
Ties to the land.
at least for a decent while, because she definitely looks more like battle hardened
Should lift it.
Yeah.
than she does in this game. Like
Yeah.
she definitely, like you can tell, she's been through a lot to get where she is. So,
I'll
like,
be
I
right.
definitely want it to be where at least a decent amount of time has passed between the games.
Yeah. Yeah, I would think so. But then again, I could have maybe there might have actually been a whatchamacallit. There might have been a quote from a dev where they stated the amount of time. I would need to look into that. I might have seen something, or I might be misremembering. I could have sworn that they said that it takes place just like a few years after The Witcher 3, but maybe I'm imagining that.
Kept him there until the end. That shitty way to die.
Yeah, no, there hasn't been a definite statement yet on how much time has passed between the two games.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I am curious to know like all of the details around that, like around her, like why did she choose to become like an actual Witcher, not just a Witcher by profession, but actually like undergoing the trials. What did Geralt have to say about that? What compelled her to do that in the first place? How long has it been? Who's the main antagonist in this story? Was it some sort of antagonist that compelled her to do this?
And it's like,
I don't know.
has she like taken over for Geralt, or like
Well,
is he-
presumably. I mean, it's presumed that he would have like retired or something, but we don't really know. The problem is, there's so many details absent in terms of like what the state of the world is. They're also going to have to like canonize some of the endings of this game, I imagine, because there's several different endings of The Witcher 3. They're going to have to like make some of them canon.
Yeah, they're gonna
Like
yeah.
who won the war? Which faction won the war in The Witcher 3? They're going to have to answer that. What was Ciri's fate at the end of the game? Presumably, they're going to canonize the ending where she becomes a Witcher naturally, as opposed to becoming the Empress of Nilfgaard. But yeah, I don't know. A lot of questions.
Yeah, and that's why again, just the the outrage kind of just rings so hollow, because again, we know so little. Like it's just people grasping at like whatever straws they can to fuel what they already want to think. That's the thing.
Yeah.
It's like they just imprint their own issues onto the footage, even though like it's there isn't a lot there that you can really glean from it.
Yeah.
What's with the door? What do you want? Gotta catch them. Had to fight a pesta.
And did you learn how to lift the curse before you lunged at her sword in hand?
Yeah, we talked a bit. Looks like I need to get her beloved to the island. Fisherman named Graham.
I know the man. He lives in Origin, village on the lakeshore. Find him immediately. We're close to unraveling this. I can feel it.
Have they said have they said how far the TV show is going to go, like season wise?
5 seasons, I believe. Season 4 is the one that is the next one. I think they're ending after 5. Now, there were 7 books in the mainline story that the TV show is following. Now, granted, the first 2 books, they kind of combined into the first season. So that would really, to really round out the story from the books, you would probably need at least 6 seasons minimum. But yeah, they're only getting 5. So I am curious to see how they're going to like wrap everything up. I mean, I kind of stopped watching that show, to be honest. I didn't even watch season 3 because I just did not really even like season 2. And Henry Cavill leaving was, I don't know, kind of put a sour taste in my mouth.
You didn't really like him as Geralt?
No, I did. But that's why like him being gone like kind of sucks. I mean, I'm sure that what's his face? Liam Hemsworth is going to he'll do a good enough job, but it's just I don't know.
I don't know. I don't think he has again that kind of edge that Henry Cavill can do. Like if you watch Mission Impossible Fallout, where it's like he can like really like be that like hardcore guy that has that kind of gravity. It's like Liam Hemsworth just comes off. I've yet to see him in something where he's shown that kind of like toughness to him, that kind of edge.
I met her, talked to her.
Yeah.
Annabelle's dead. Drank poison, and I couldn't save her.
No. Yeah. Well, I hope he can pull it off, but I don't know. It's not like I haven't really seen a whole lot with Liam Hemsworth, to be honest. I mean, I saw him in the Hunger Games movies, and like 1 or 2 other things, but
well, he just seems to always have that kind of like playful kind of like charming kind of thing to him, where it's like I just don't see him playing that kind of a hard-edged character kind of thing. Whereas Henry Cavill, like I said, in like Mission Impossible Fallout, where he plays, the John Lark characters, like he does have that kind of, thing where he can be jokey, he can be charming, but then he like basically switches into Terminator mode, and then it's like, oh no, like shit's gonna get dangerous now. And with Liam Hemsworth, I just don't see that. It's like it's kind of a family thing, because it's the same thing with Chris Hemsworth. Like I don't know if I could see Chris Hemsworth playing a villain. I really don't see it. Like I think if he tried to play like a more mean character, I think it would come off kind of comedic.
There's a powerful magic aura on Fyke Isle. Passions, evil intent.
Because it's like not every actor can do that. Not every actor is that versatile, and I just don't think Liam Hemsworth is that versatile. I don't think he has that range.
No, I don't think so either. I think it's definitely going to be a step down. But I mean, honestly, the Witcher Netflix show had a lot of problems. I mean, losing Henry Cavill is just one of them. But they've done some writing wise. They would kill off characters that didn't need to be killed off. They would like remove really important storylines from the books, but then replace them with their own storylines that just don't really like make any sense. Like they did that quite a bit. It's just I don't know. It just seems like a case of the writers thinking that they know better than like the original author. It's like we're gonna do our own thing. I don't know.
Yeah, and from what I've seen of the Witcher show, it seems like they're trying to appeal to too young of a demographic with it, like where they don't really go into like the like how far you could go into like kind of almost a horror aspect with it.
They got some pretty violent scenes in it, and there is a bit of like nudity, and at least in season 1. I don't remember that in season 2, but season 1 had a little bit of that. So I mean, it's like they're trying to be adult, but you are right in the sense that like they could go further in terms of like the dark medieval subject matter, but they kind of don't. Like they didn't go as far as they could or maybe should. Well, and they just strayed very far away from the main story, as I said.
Well, one of the problems with shows like that is they tend to, as the seasons go on, it tends to get a little bit more silly. Like if you watch shows, like a good example would be Supernatural, if you've ever seen that show, where it's like in the first few seasons, it's very intense. It's very, it's taken seriously for the most part. They had a few funny episodes, but overall, it's very serious, very dark, very brutal. And then towards the later seasons, they had it like, they go to the land of Oz and they meet fairies and they meet, all kinds of, and it just got really silly and really it lost the edge it had. And that happens a lot in TV shows like this that have like a horror element, is like the longer they go on, the more that gets sanded down.
Yeah.
So I can see that happening with, the Liam Hemsworth coming in. And so like that is, I could see that happening where it turns into more of an action adventure than like a medieval horror, which is
they've already done that plenty. Yeah. I mean, they've already thrown in like a lot of action scenes where there weren't any. And I don't know. It's and one of their motivations for making the show, as far as I recall, is that Netflix was looking for their own answer to Game of Thrones. Now, this was before Game of Thrones dropped off with season 8, which had its own problems, of course. But yeah, they wanted like their own Game of Thrones, and it's like kind of amazing, like how far they fell from like meeting those kinds of expectations. It's just, it just doesn't. I know that the show had a big enough budget, but I don't know.
They should have been more specific. They were like, we want our own Game of Thrones, and you kind of ended up with the bad
season. Yeah,
it's like what they should have said is, we wanted season 1 to 4 of Game of Thrones. Be specific, the kind of a monkey's paw situation where it's like, no, the same thing is going to happen. Be
careful what you wish for. Yeah.
You're going to drop off, same as Game of Thrones.
Oh God. Well, the difference is it didn't even have much of a height to drop off from. I mean, season 1, from what I understand, did pretty well. And it was like okay, but it's not like it ever got to the initial heights that something like Game of Thrones did. Like it was popular enough at the time, I guess, but yeah, I mean, I guess it wasn't as rapid of a decline as something like the last season of Game of Thrones, because Game of Thrones was on top of the world at one point, and then it jumped off a cliff in like the final season or so. This never got to the cliff.
Well, the decline for me for Game of Thrones, the decline happened or started with season 5.
Yeah,
And then
season
it
5
just-
is where it started. Yeah, it steadily went downhill from there. But season 8, it was just, rock bottom for that show.
Oh yeah. Have you ever seen the cast interviews about it?
Oh, this is gross.
Like the cast interviews about season 8. They're so hilarious.
Oh, yeah, like they're
Peter Dinklage, he's like, Tyrion's supposed to be the smart one. He's like, oh, we'll hide from people who raise the dead in a crypt. Yeah.
yeah. Well, the actor who played Varys, like if you watch, I assume you saw the clip of the table reads, where he just looks like he wants to die.
Oh yeah.
Like he was so upset.
Oh yeah. And like Emilia Clarke, best season ever.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I think the only actors I recall like vaguely defending the show at the time were the actor for Jaime and the actor for Sansa. But like everybody else either like kept their mouth shut or were like low key saying things to kind of insult the show.
Well, yeah, like I'd be too, because it's like you said, it did have really high, quality at the beginning. So if I was an actor on that show, I'd be upset too. I'd be like, what happened? Like because it damages them too.
Oh yeah. Oh, I'm sure they're annoyed. Like it probably because they were doing well and they were getting a lot of fanfare and positive attention, but I'm sure that final season, damaged their reputation a bit. Not that they're still getting roles and stuff. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, I'm sure that they were like, "You motherfuckers! We were sitting on a pot of gold, and you took it away from us, Dan and Dave."
Have you watched Rings of Power at all?
I cannot bring myself to watch that show. As like a diehard Lord of the Rings fan, I just know. Oh, it's going to upset me.
Oh, it absolutely will. It throws the Silmarillion right out the window. Like they're doing their own thing. They're not adhering to that whatsoever. Like I was explaining to my roommate who hasn't seen the show, but has some understanding of the Silmarillion. I was like explaining to him, I'm like, yeah, they have Gandalf appear way before he did in the story.
That I heard about, yeah.
Yeah, it's like he shouldn't even be like a factor at that point.
Why are you here?
And they were like, the how the rings are made and how that's all like how they're made kind of stays the same, but the timeline of it and the timeline for them figuring out, that the rings are a trap is way too early, way too like it's just so muddled. I don't know where they're going to go with it because it's all just so messed up at this point. But Amazon is committed. They're like, no, we're going to keep going. I want to I want to know. I want to see the books. I want somebody to go to Bezos and be like, yeah, I want you to prove to me that this season actually cost $1 billion. I want to see that. I want to see what did you spend? Because like Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings, which are like 1/10 of that cost, it's like look far, far better. Like the sets, the costumes, the effects all look so much better in the original Loder trilogy than these shows do. And they keep claiming, oh, each season's $1 billion. It's like,
yeah, I'm like half convinced it's like a big money laundering scheme.
Yeah, like it's got to be something because it's like there's no way you're spending $1 billion and this is the result.
No, it just doesn't look good because I've seen a lot of the footage of it and a lot of it just doesn't even look that good considering the monumental budget. It's honestly insane how much money they burned on that show.
Oh, hello. Alexander is one of those
Ugh.
anxious experimenters, forever short on sleep.
Yeah, I mean, there's a scene, or one of the main plot points of the second season is this elf uh, city
Go to the
is
tower with
is under attack for a decent amount of the season,
He knew the risks.
and
Also
it
knew
really doesn't compare. Like, this is supposed to be the orcs laying siege to a long-standing siege, like not just one battle, but they are like attacking this place for like weeks, sieging it, and it really looks so basic. Like, I don't look at this and buy that, oh, this is like a
Annabelle said,
really like tooth and nail fight for control of this city.
all the mages.
I like
Alexander was a highly regarded epidemiologist.
Hmm.
I would have given anything for an opportunity to study his notes.
whereas in the original one, like, the Battle of Helm's Deep, it's like, no, you feel that battle. You really like
I should
it
read
feels like not that it's real because it's fantasy, but it feels like it's real in that world. Like that this is a real thing that's happening, whereas
Yeah,
like
yeah.
in the show it looks like they're like, you can tell how fake it all is.
What is it?
I put in an order for
Yep.
a few substances.
Agreed.
sent over, Brad.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I mean,
Has yet to arrive.
Helm's Deep will always be like,
Did you see
I think,
what
the gold
happened?
standard for
Packages
big
rather
medieval battle
important to
scenes
me.
in movies and TV show. And yeah, there's very few things out there that have come close to that.
Why not? He was coming.
Well, and it's going to be really sad too, because eventually this is all leading towards, like, obviously in the final season they're going to do the Battle of Mordor.
The Battle of the Last Alliance, yeah, that's
Yeah.
going to be like the end of the show, I'm sure.
And it's going to look so bad. It's going to be like that quick little like 2-minute thing at the beginning of Fellowship is still going to look better than an entire season telling that story. Like,
Yep.
it's just unbelievable. No.
It's pathetic.
What do you need? Tell me.
A man who feels
One thing
not
I'm wondering is,
forefathers
like,
we've rights.
I wonder if in the show, they're going to be able to like hold themselves back, or if they're going to try and bring Smeagol into it.
Oh, I fully expect them to bring a lot of different characters in. They've demonstrated that they do not have any restraint.
What'll I get out of it?
Because it's like he doesn't come into it for quite a ways after that battle happens, because first
At times,
Isildur has to have his fall and then his death, and then it floats down to the bottom of that like lake, and then it stays there to the point where like the world pretty much forgets about Sauron, and that's when Smeagol finds it, and the whole thing. Well, his cousin finds it, and then
Yeah.
But no, I fully expect that they're going to have some kind of Smeagol appearance, and it's going to be like, that makes no sense, but they'll do it just for the fan service, just to try and.
I would, yeah, because it obviously, Smeagol, or Gollum rather, doesn't become a thing until after Isildur has died and the ring has been lost. But like, it would be funny if they introduced Smeagol while Isildur is still alive.
Yeah.
It's like, what?
Well, they already brought Tom Bombadil into the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's really pointless. Like, he shows up and he kind of gives this like vague speech to Gandalf, almost kind of like Luke Skywalker and Grogu, where he's like, because there's these two hobbits that Gandalf befriends, because we gotta copy Lord of the Rings, and they get taken prisoner, and like Tom Bombadil is supposed to be like training Gandalf in how to be a wizard, And he basically says the same thing. He's like, yeah, you can leave and go and rescue your friends, but if you do, that's the end of the training. He's like, you can either stay here and I can train you, or you can, go try to rescue your friends and that, but you can't have both. And then it's like all about, he has to learn his name. And oh my, it's just so silly. It's like, because he has to learn what his true name, like Gandalf has to learn that that's his name. Like before that, he's just the stranger. And then it's like only by learning his true name will he get his staff. And it's pretty dumb. But
Didn't was there? Correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't they say something like somebody calls him like Grand Elf, and that's how he like gets his name or whatever? I'm like, oh god, it reminds me of the Han Solo, like at the beginning of the Solo film, where the Imperial officer just gives him a name. Oh god.
Yeah, that's exactly what happens. It's really stupid. It's like, it was like, again, it didn't have to be that way, because the Silmarillion can be, adapted into a very compelling story. They're trying to go for spectacle when it's a character piece. Like, it should be the story of this should be about, the fall of, or the failing of these species, where it's like the humans and the elves and the dwarves be like, this is the beginning of their decline. This is, why they fall for Sauron, why they fall for it should be about, the decline of these species. And then they have to come together for one last, stand against him. And then even in victory, like, their alliance is broken. It's like they all separated. And so by the end of it, you understand, this is why in Lord of the Rings, they're, they don't stand together. They're so separated. But no, it's it was really sad. It's like, I really wanted like a good fantasy television show, and outside of those early seasons of Game of Thrones, we haven't gotten that.
I mean, House of the Dragon was decent for a little while, but I mean, season 2 obviously had a bit of a drop in quality. There hasn't been a whole lot else besides that. And honestly, like, I really fear for Game of Thrones moving forward, not just with Rings of Power, but just everything, because obviously they're planning to do a whole bunch of new movies as well. Like, they're doing that Hunt for Gollum movie. And I just, god, now we're starting to get like really familiar characters, like from that, point in time in the timeline. I'm just like, Amazon, you better be careful.
Well, what do they mean by hunt for Gollum? Like, who's hunting him?
Well, so this was, from what I recall, this was something that was mentioned in the appendices of Fellowship, where the movies don't really do a good job of conveying how much time passes at the beginning of Fellowship. Like when Gandalf first leaves the ring with Frodo, and then goes off to like find out more information on Sauron and the ring and stuff. In the books, there's actually like much more time that passes.
Oh yeah,
by the time that Gandalf returns.
Isn't it like years have passed, like almost like 10 years or something?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it was years. I don't remember exactly how many, but it was like a few years. And during that time, he was looking for Gollum, and he and Aragorn together basically tracked down Gollum. And I believe they briefly hold him like captive and interrogate him, but then he ends up like escaping or something like that. So I guess it's it's like one little mention in the appendices that they're planning to turn into a whole movie. I don't know how they're going to do that, but
like I mean that does it makes sense. Like it's internally consistent with the movie, because there's the scene in Fellowship where Gandalf does explain what happened to Gollum. He was kidnapped, or he was captured by Mordor and tortured, and so it makes sense that he would have had to have had some way of finding that out. So obviously in the movie they're probably going to have them hunting Gollum, and then Gollum will end up getting captured. But yeah, that really does reek of Solo, where it's like you're taking something that should be such a minor thing and you're trying to make a whole movie over that. It's like, how are you going to stretch that out? Because that should be a very quick, simple thing. There's no way that needs to be like its own, presumably at least 2-hour movie.
Yeah. The one thing that gives me some hope is that, like, Viggo Mortensen, because they've obviously approached him to want to return as Aragorn for that. And he's like he seems to be like one of the few actors that actually like in Hollywood that actually has like integrity and cares about the craft. And I think he has said that he will not do this unless it has a decent script. Now actors have said that before, and you pay them enough money and they end up going along with it anyway. So who knows? I'm giving him benefit of the doubt here, but assuming he is actually serious about that, then that's the one thing that has me somewhat hopeful.
The one thing I'm wondering is, how are they going to de-age him? Like, it's
well, yeah, that's the other thing too. I mean, and he himself, I think, was even concerned about that, because I remember they approached him for the Hobbit movies as well, even though he was never in the book, and he turned them down. He was like, "No, Aragorn's not in the book. I'm not coming back for this." And like, how are you going to square me like playing a much younger Aragorn?
Yeah.
And even now, yeah, I mean, Viggo's gotten even older since then, so it's like, I don't know how they're going to do that.
Yeah, it's like, why do they always need to go back? Why can't they go forward? Like, why can't, if you want to create not Gandalf, but if you want to create a new story for Aragorn, why not just come up with something? Why not just, set it, X amount of time after return, and be like, it doesn't have to be a grand, like big, world ending thing. Just have an adventure with Aragorn.
Well, I would be very concerned about, like, ordinarily, if we lived in a sane world, I would agree with you. It's like, yeah, let's go in future. But at this point, I would be very concerned about them basically doing, like, pulling a Luke Skywalker TLJ on Aragorn if they were to go in the future. Like, have him so that he like gave up on being king, and he's just like, he's become depressed and he hates the people of Gondor or something. Like, God, no.
He's out in a little hut in the woods, and he's got little goblins doing all of his chores and that, and
yeah, God.
You just have him milking like one of those elephants.
No. Please, no. Or he becomes a horrific tyrant. Yes, exactly. Like, I would be very concerned about them damaging the shit out of, especially Aragorn, but also other characters as well. Like, what if they come up with some storyline where, like, Sauron secretly made, like, a second ring, and, like, so Sauron didn't actually get destroyed? Like, oh, no. Like, because there are stories you could tell post Return of the King, like, in terms of the continuing conflicts of, Gondor and Harad, like the human allies of Sauron. Like, there's still stuff that you could do where it's like, even though Sauron was defeated, there are still unresolved tensions that need to be worked through and stuff. You could make like interesting stories with that. I just don't necessarily trust current Hollywood to do that.
Oh yeah, there's so much you could do. Like that would actually be an interesting TV show to make is, instead of going back, go forward, be like, how do you repair the world after post Sauron? Like that the dwarves were, vastly, diminished. A lot of their civilizations were wiped out. The humans, like how does the healing the rift between Gondor and Rohan, and like the hobbits, like now that the hobbits are much more, involved in the world, like what if you did a thing where some humans want to, take parts of the Shire and exploit it for its resources, and because they grow a lot of food, like the soil is really good there for growth. Like have stuff like that be like, have new cracks forming, have new thing where, just because they took out Sauron doesn't mean like everything's a happy ending. Like
Everything's fine and dandy, yeah.
Yeah, like that could be interesting if they did it as a character piece. If they did it, it's more about this world and how does it heal after such a terrible thing, too. Like,
yeah.
Well,
it's funny. There another because you mentioned the dwarves. I know people gave shit to the Hobbit movies, and I have as well. But I actually wouldn't mind if they did like an animated series exploring the like all the things that happen between like from the dwarf POV, like in the aftermath of the Hobbit, and leading into the events of the Lord of the Rings trilogy, because we don't really get a lot of that. We don't really get what the dwarves were doing in the north and like the whole northern conflict, because there were actually battles that were getting fought up there during the events of the trilogy. And like I think Sauron sent an army of Easterlings to attack Erebor during I think while the siege of Minas Tirith was going on. So I think if you did like an animated series and you could even bring back some of the actors, the voice actors of the dwarves from The Hobbit, I think you could actually do some cool stuff, and you can explore everything from Balin's like failed colony in Moria, and then like all of the northern conflict that we get during the events of the trilogy. I think that would be awesome to explore as well.
Yeah, they really screwed that up, by the way, in Rings of Power. By the end of season 2, the Balrog has already arrived, and they've already, they're already dealing with it. It's like this takes place like so many ages before like Fellowship of the Ring. So it's like, how would Gimli not know that the Balrog is a thing? Like that makes no sense. It's like,
so they squished the timeline a lot, didn't they?
Yeah, they really did. It's like because it's like that's the whole thing of this season is that what is it? Balin's father gets one of the rings of power, and it causes him essentially to have the dragon sickness thing from the Hobbit, where it's like he becomes so greedy. He's like, oh, we have to keep digging deeper and deeper. I want more mithril. We're going to dig deeper and deeper. And they're all telling him like, there's something's down. Like at first it's about the fact that it's unstable, like to dig that deep, like the veins. It's like, no, that's causing collapses. It's causing, all kinds of things. And then it's like they start to realize something is down there, and then that's the thing. By the end of it, they're like, telling him, they're like, something's down there. We can't go that deep. We're going to awaken something. And then by the end of the season, no, the Balrogs come up, and it's like, okay, so you're telling me the Balrog arrived, and yet that Moria colony stayed there for all that time? It's like, no, yeah, just it makes no sense. They've damaged the timeline to the point where it's just ludicrous by this point with the show. Like they can't square that circle. It just won't work.
Lie down and gaze at the stars.
But
Yeah.
yeah.
I fear for Lord of the Rings at this point. It almost kind of feels like they're the next franchise that's on the chopping block.
Oh,
just
yeah.
like, oh god.
I think they're gonna fall to the same Disney thing where it's like, and it's really sad too. What it really frustrates me with Dave Filoni, because one of his things is like whining and crying, where he's like, I don't want to be, I don't want to be, having to stick to all this like continuity and that. I want to do my own thing. It's like, then why not create your own thing? Like, you signed up for, a 40-year-old franchise. You didn't think you'd have to, adhere to some things. And it's like, that's when he came up with that stupid campfire stories thing that even like Sam Whitmer doesn't even like. He tries to defend it a little bit, but you can tell it's very half-hearted.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, if you're a good writer, you can find a way to tell basically the story you want while still adhering to the continuity. Like, that's on you. Like you should have that skill. If you're not that talented, then just don't do it. Like,
yeah.
But
Too
that's
much pride. Too much pride.
Yeah, it's the thing, and that's how we ended up with Star Wars in the shape it is now, where Luke Skywalker becomes a disillusioned hermit, sitting in a hut on a hill while, the Second Empire rises around him.
Oh, God. You too
Yep.
can seek his aid.
Uh,
If you've got fitting offerings. Scorned hours.
At the point now where I just want a lot of these franchises to kind of end.
Well,
what a sad place to be in.
Yeah, and eventually that's what happens. Like, look at the Terminator franchise. It's like nobody wants that to go forward. Like,
Oh, no.
Even if they came up with a good idea, I feel at this point it's just too tainted. People would be like, nah, I just don't want to. Like,
well, yeah, how long before they ruin it again, Just,
it's one of the many reasons that Transformers 1 had so many problems succeeding at the box office, is people by this point, like, they've seen the Michael Bay films, and Rise of the Beasts was kind of lackluster, so they're just too burned on it, where it's like, oh, a good movie comes out, but people are just like, nah, we're I'm just done with that. Like, they just don't have the interest by that point. So yeah,
can't blame them.
Yeah, I could easily see that happening, and it's starting to happen with the Alien movies, I think, too, where it's just like, it's been so long since we've had a good Alien movie, because Aliens was the last good one, and so now it's like,
poor wretch in need.
Nah, I think it's just going to keep, like, the viewership on those movies is just going to keep declining.
Yep.
Something here. Where's that artifact Kira gave me? Oh, all gone.
Yeah, there's only so many, like, just terrible sequels I can get in a franchise before I'm just like, enough is enough.
Yeah.
Just so many bad decisions.
I dare disturb it because I want your divine self to lift the curse you cast.
Well, yeah, it gets to a point where you're like, I don't care how good this is. If the overall franchise is just so tainted by that point, you're like, yeah, it's like, I can't even bring myself to enjoy, a quality version of this. I think that's why Predator managed to survive, is that it had like Predator 1 is obviously that's what made everyone fall in love with the series. Then Predator 2 was stupid but fun. It was still fun. It's still, overall it still like worked for people. Like it was still a fun like kind of action movie. And then Predators wasn't terrible. It wasn't great, but it wasn't terrible when they're off on the alien planet. Predator and the AVP plus the Predator, those were bad. But those
Oh
were
God, the Predator was terrible. I hated that one.
yeah. But that was like there wasn't like they didn't have like a long string of bad Predator movies. So when Prey came out, there was still a chance to salvage that. There was still a chance where people were like, okay, we're still willing to give this a shot. Plus it was such a unique idea to set it back in like the Frontier days. I'm going to be very interested for the next one, because isn't it supposed to be like something with like a samurai or something?
I think so. Yeah, I vaguely heard something about that.
Yeah, like that could be. They're trying very interesting things with it, and I think that could be kind of cool. But when it comes to Alien, it's like another thing with that is like, what is there left to tell there? Same with Terminator. It's like, what is there? What story is left there at this point?
Yeah. It's all just, I mean, it's all just about money at this point, which is no news to anybody. But when you get to a point where there really isn't a story to tell anymore, it's just so frustrating that they keep doing it.
Yeah, it's just been milked dry. It's just like the movies have been bad, and they're just repeating the same. And that's where my fear, like I said, with Star Wars comes into play, is that they keep doing, Rebels versus Empire, Jedi versus Sith, over and over and over again. And it's just like eventually people are going to be like, it's the same thing. I'm just watching you're just recycling it. This is just, like you just can't do it. Like people, like I said, the Star Trek thing. I'm like, if they were still doing like if with Star Trek, it just was always them versus the Klingons, always fighting the Klingons. It'd be like people would just get sick of it. They'd be like, come up with something else. We've seen this so many times.
Did you know
yeah.
Anyways, I gotta head out.
All right.
I gotta be up in the morning. Great stream. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no problem, man.
Awesome. Have a good. You gonna keep going?
Oh, I'm probably heading out soon too. I'm just gonna find a good place to stop.
Okay. Yeah. Let me know if you ever want to do this again. I'm happy to.
Yeah, we'll do.
Awesome. Nice talking with you.
Yeah. Later. Yeah, let me find a good place to stop. Didn't want to do that quest. Just head back to Crow's Perch. Hopefully I can craft the gloves that I want to craft now. I don't know. We'll see. Don't know if I have all the materials. What's my weight looking? All right, no, I'm still good. I'm not over encumbered yet.
this be the Witchman? Freak of nature. Who
Gloves, gloves, gloves. What? Oh, I can craft it now. Yay. Let's do that.
So long.
How can I help you?
What do you... Take care now.
How can I...
Take...
What did he make that stew from? Rats?
I don't know.
The young'uns!
Fancy a gander at our little stockpile.
Show me what you got. See ya.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and end it here. Thank you for anybody who tuned in. I'll probably be around again later in the week to play more of this. Yeah, I'll catch you around next time. Bye.